Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you. In the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you.
It's UAB who celebrates a championship unlike any other.
Davis, oh my God! Davis is going running all the way back! Auburn's gonna win the football game!
Fire to the end zone, touchdown! Alabama wins!
Auburn wins the BCS National Championship.
Glad to be back.
Glad to be back.
Hashtag the return.
Back by popular demand.
And you're going for the over there unless you
I'm
expect
definitely going
a
the over.
shutout.
I mean, come on.
Steven, non-power 5.
Guys, are you ready?
Where Birmingham goes to talk football. This is Under Review.
All right, here we go. Another week is in the books. That means Under Review is back again for another week. Tyler, Steven, Cole Marino here as always. Guys, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great, Cole.
Doing great. How are y'all?
It's so great every week because it's my favorite day of the week is when Under Review, the guys get together. We talk about what we saw over the weekend, whether it's overreactions, maybe a little bit just reactions in general. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Alabama, of course, goes down to Texas A&M.
Oof.
Auburn, a loser against Georgia.
Oof.
UAB, a winner, though, over Florida Atlantic, their first win at
Yay.
Protective Stadium. So Stephen, of course, excited about that. So we got something to celebrate here in the state of Alabama, I guess. But we'll start as we do every single week with our winners and losers of the weekend. The people who are popping champagne versus some teams that maybe are not taking things so lightly this week. So guys, who is our winners for this week?
Well, I've got a few winners and a few losers. So I've got multiple
I
here.
can't wait to hear them.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
You guys get ready. So my first champagne poppers are fantasy football miracle kneaders. So that's a mouthful right there. But Monday night, we had a big comeback win from the Baltimore Ravens. And if you had Lamar Jackson, Hollywood Brown, Mark Andrews, or Jonathan Taylor on your team, you got some points.
Mark
And,
Andrews has how many points for fantasy? Was that
I
like
think
40
he had
something
41.
That's
Lamar
a very
Jackson-
high tight end total for points.
Super high. Lamar Jackson, I think, had like 45. Hollywood Brown had 39. And then Jonathan Taylor had like 32.
Good night for
probably
Ravens fantasy owners, for sure.
Great night. So I saw like Matthew Berry, the ESPN fantasy football guy, post. And I think one fantasy football guy, he was down 117 points going into Monday night. 117. And I believe he had Lamar Jackson, Jonathan Taylor, and Mark Andrews. He had a 1% chance to win going
And
into
he
Monday
won.
night, and he won by I think
Wow.
like 3 points.
That's awesome.
So
That's
yeah, and then
awesome.
that
Never
last,
count anybody out in fantasy.
exactly. So fantasy football miracle kneaders are popping some champagne, and it gives everybody hope for that Monday night miracle that you might need. My other champagne is going to be hockey fans. For the two out there, hockey started Tuesday.
I think a lot of people probably got lost that amongst all the big baseball games and football games. I think hockey can get kind of
That's
lost.
what I'm saying. That's
in
why
all
they
that.
they need to pop some champagne because hockey's back.
Oh, absolutely, and I think with the NBA preseason and all that kind of stuff, hockey is the sport that I think does get kind of the back
Well, I think
seat. So it is a big win, but I think it's a big win for them that they're back on ESPN. I think that's huge.
It is.
For the NHL as they are on ESPN now.
It is. It's going to be big. I mean, I every year I tell myself I'm going to be getting hockey, and then I never end up doing it. But I need like the Thrashers back or something like that. I mean, if you're local, you have the Bulls.
The Predators. I mean, we're not big hockey people here on Under Review.
Well, I
have to
think if we lived in the North, I think we would be big hockey fans. But
Absolutely.
we're
Now you
good
said you had a bunch of winners. Is those
that
your
was my
winners?
two winners. I have two winners and two losers.
Okay.
So I could have had more, but I feel like that.
Everybody can't win, right? I mean, everybody can't win, Steve.
So everybody can't win. Speaking of people who can't win, sipping a little whiskey today is the Bronze Bomber himself, Deontay Wilder. He goes down in a heavyweight.
Did you watch the whole fight?
I did not. I just saw the highlights. It's a little bit past my bedtime when that fight was on.
Father life is hitting you pretty hard as far as bedtime, right?
The wedding life is hitting me hard.
Well, the wedding life too. That's true. That's true.
So Deontay Wilder goes down in a fight, knockout. I think it was in the 9th round to Tyson Fury. And what a lot of people called like a fight for the ages kind of thing. It's always really good when you get
How many times did a guy get knocked down in that fight?
There was 5 knockdowns.
There was
5 knockdowns, which I believe the 5th being the last one, which was the knockout. And it was one of those where every time somebody got knocked down,
Right.
it felt like the
Yeah.
fight was over.
You had to give
Tyson Fury got knocked down, I think, 2 times, and then Deontay Wilder got knocked down 3, and then the third being the last time. But
Got to give credit to Deontay Wilder for kind of keeping up and
he
fighting
looks,
until the end.
If you watch highlights from the later rounds, both of the guys look dead. They look like how are they still standing kind of thing. And that's what's so great about heavyweights is they're not necessarily in the best cardio shape. They're in the knockout shape. And I mean, if you've seen Tyson Fury, you're not looking at Tyson Fury and be like, that guy.
But did you see where he ended up going to a rave?
I did see that.
After the fight?
I listened to an interview with him. I think it was like Friday or Wednesday before the fight that Saturday, and he said something. They were asking like, "Do you usually go out and get drunk?" He's like, "I usually don't drink, but I usually go out because I'm so amped up from the like adrenaline that you have during the fight." And that's crazy too because he had like 2 hours of interviews after the fight too. So it wasn't that he just went straight from like knocking out Deontay Wilder into the club. He was like sitting in the ringside, like the stadium was empty, talking to reporters.
Anytime
still.
those guys get together, it is just something to behold. I mean,
Well,
they are
I was gonna say a lot of people saw it. Like
they're
the
great
first, the
entertainment.
first fight obviously was really, really good. Tyson Fury, I don't know how he wasn't knocked out. He somehow woke up in the first fight. The second fight was just all Fury. It was Wilder didn't have a chance, and then this third fight was obviously one that everybody's going to be talking about for a long time. But sadly, the Tuscaloosa native did not.
One of 2
win
L's
out.
that Tuscaloosa took on Saturday night.
That's very true. That's very true. And then my other sipping some whiskey this weekend is NFL kickers. They just couldn't seem to make a field goal or an extra point or really anything.
The Bengals-Packers game, I saw the highlights of that one.
Yeah, there was 5 missed field goals
yeah.
in the final 2 minutes, I believe. So, which were all game
Of course,
winners.
Mason Crossbar eventually puts it.
He does put it in.
Puts it through there.
Yeah.
Shout out to Skip Bayless
I was
with
about to say,
that nickname.
I almost said
so.
Stephen A. Smith, but I knew it was Skip
No,
Bayless.
Skip Bayless.
Yeah, no,
all over that Mason Crossbar.
And it seems like they all sync up. They're like on the same, cycle of
One
like,
week they're all good, and the next week they're just all
Because I think,
bad.
what was it, 2 weeks ago? I was like, kickers was my champagne, or was it last week? I was kickers was my champagne. Now it's kickers are my
Well, we
whiskey,
had a
so-
lot of close games this past weekend where it really came down to field goal kicking. So I mean,
And
I
they
guess
miss. They miss
and then
every
they
time.
miss. So I guess when you put,
We
I
even
guess
had one in the
moral
Monday
of the
night
story
game.
is, I guess, don't put the game in the hands of the kicker, right?
I guess so. Win the game. Play better.
I guess okay. So I'll go a little bit differently route than you did.
Okay.
I went for my winner this weekend. I said the 18 playoff hopeful people out there, because I think after Alabama lost this weekend, I think that kind of changed the narrative of where we're at as far as parity in college football. Because I think at the beginning of the season we all thought, hey, Alabama and Georgia and everybody else. I don't think that maybe the gap is quite as far as we all thought that it was at the beginning of the season. And I think now you could make a case for that team from 5 to 6 to 7, especially where Alabama is sitting now at 5. And I know the playoff committee is going to sort everything out in the end. These are just AP poll rankings that don't mean anything. But I do think that there's something to be said about a 14 versus an 18 playoff, because at one point we all thought, there's always just 4 teams that are just better than everybody else.
Well, we talked about
And
it.
I don't think that's the case this year.
We talked about it a little bit last show, is that the 4-team playoff is just meant for the Power 5. Like, they've designed it in a way for the Power 5. As much as we want Cincinnati, or at least me, would love to see a Cincinnati get in just for the craziness of it, to change the narrative,
Right,
I guess.
right.
They built it for the Power 5. So, hey, maybe if the Power 5 keeps losing, or we have a year similar to 2007, which it looks like we're at least getting closer than everybody thought at the beginning of the year, then maybe they change a little bit. So.
That's what I'm saying. So I think that this weekend just proves that maybe that change needs to happen, because maybe we're trending in a direction where it's not just 1 or 2 teams that are really good, and maybe you have a team like Oregon, a team like Ohio State, that if there's an 18 playoff, they still have a shot to get back into the race, which Ohio State and Oregon still obviously do.
Right.
But I think you increase their chances if you do have that 18 playoff. So that is my winner for the weekend. My loser for this weekend, and I don't think there is anybody who could quite lose as bad as this, and that's Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You
That's
get
a good one.
benched. You get benched for Caleb Williams, and not only does Caleb Williams win the game, you looked so poorly when you were down 28-7. Caleb Williams comes in and obviously wins the game, but now not only have you lost your starting job potentially for the rest of the season, but now your draft status has to be put into question. Now, I still think that Spencer Rattler is a prospect for the NFL draft, but at one point this was the number 1 rated quarterback for the NFL draft, the number 1 Heisman rating guy, and he has not only dropped off of everything of that, but now he's not even starting for his football team. So I can't say there's anybody who's a bigger loser this weekend than him, because surrounding all that hype and whatnot, and then all of a sudden just fall from grace like he has.
Yeah, I mean,
I have to say we haven't seen something like that in quite some time.
Yeah, I was going to talk about it later when we talk about the Texas-Oklahoma game, but I'll go ahead and touch on it now. What do you do with that QB situation? Because if you're Oklahoma, you don't want to lose Spencer Rattler because obviously, I mean, he was a Heisman favorite coming into the season because he has the talent. It's not like he doesn't have the talent. They've been winning games.
You're going to lose him probably regardless, though, aren't you? I mean, he's going to go to the NFL draft this year at the end of the season, right? I mean,
we'll see. After
that's true.
You just touched on it. He just heard his draft status. He might.
Maybe he sticks around.
Maybe he
transfers. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously you can't lose Caleb Williams after that performance. And
you can't.
And what do you do?
No.
Do you start? Do you continue to start Caleb Williams after that, or do you go back to Spencer Rattler and see what happens?
Very tough decision for Lincoln Riley moving
forward. That was one of my questions in that Texas-Oklahoma game is what do you do? Because that's one of the. I mean, I guess it's a great problem to have. It's similar to the
Caleb
Jalen
Williams
Hurts.
really a better quarterback, or was it just kind of a spark of change that kind of made Oklahoma kind of
similar to the
momentum change?
Kind of a little bit similar to the Jalen Hurts Tua kind of
maybe
segue.
similar to the Bo Nix situation that happened a few weeks ago with Auburn.
Right,
he really wasn't necessarily the worst option. I think that TJ Finley coming in being reinserted kind of just sparked a little more energy for that Auburn team, and everybody's like, oh, well, maybe TJ Finley should be starting. No. Let's pump the brakes on that. So I think we're going to see what happens for OU moving forward. But I think Spencer Rattler is a loser this weekend for sure.
What you got, Tyler?
Awesome. So I'm going to transfer over to the NFL, and I'm going to talk about Justin Herbert here for a minute, guys. Ooh. Justin Herbert, second-year quarterback. Justin Herbert showed out against Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns this past weekend. Herbert throwing for almost 300 or almost 400 yards. And if you had him in fantasy this past weekend,
oh man,
the
Chargers players are really good fantasy team.
I faced Herbert and Eckler, and that was like 55 combined points right there.
Man.
More than
it
that.
Was 70 combined points because Herbert had like 45 and Eckler had like 32.
Yeah,
really.
So that was pretty.
And then Mike Williams had like a 40-something point
Didn't
performance
have
as
to
well,
play him, but I did have to play Eckler and Herbert combined, and that was painful because I lost because of
Ravens fantasy owners and Chargers fantasy owners. You're big winners this weekend for sure. Big winners this weekend.
Definitely. Justin Herbert definitely helped his MVP chances this upcoming year, too.
I was just about to ask Tyler, what do you think about is Justin Herbert now transitioning to that MVP? Is he above Lamar for MVP frontrunner? I mean, I think you can make a case for either one. They're going to play this weekend, correct? Is the Chargers in Baltimore playing this weekend?
Cole, did you read my rundown?
I think I read your rundown. I think I'm correct on that. I think that they play at Baltimore this weekend.
They do. You did read my. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud
I
of
do
you.
actually read your stuff,
Thank you,
Stephen. Believe it or not,
You're
I actually do. I care a lot. So I think that Herbert and Lamar will have that chance to kind of decide that on the field this weekend. So
Lamar,
you're right, Tyler.
Lamar is one of those weird cases where he has looked so, like at times in the first half, especially of these games, he has looked so bad, and then he'll come back in the second half and look so good. Because I think I have the stat for it. He threw like, let's see. In the second half alone,
it was a lot. It was
crazy.
It was a crazy.
It was
amount.
like he threw like 400 yards in the second half.
Oh yeah. It was all in the second half.
I have it here. He threw for 398 yards and 4 touchdowns
in the second half. Yeah, I was close. 398.
Wow.
I knew he did that. So it's been like a case of two different quarterbacks, or I guess two different offenses for the Ravens.
You're right.
But if I'm honestly starting a NFL team today, I'm probably rolling with Herbert. So.
I probably am too, just because even though Lamar has developed, it's almost like he's close.
Right.
He's not there yet to taking that Josh Allen turn of like where Josh Allen the first 2 years, I believe, was just inaccurate, but he was so talented. The talent was there. Lamar seems to be taking at least his passing accuracy to that Josh Allen stage of like, all right, maybe he can actually pass the ball. We can rely on him a little bit more. And it's not just hey, he's going to run the ball 30 times, stack the box.
Going off what Tyler said, though, I think there was a recent poll amongst GMs, and I think that if they redrafted the draft with Justin Herbert in, I think he would have been the number one quarterback taken.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that a lot of NFL GMs also said, yeah, if we could swap our quarterback right now for Justin Herbert, which, hey, my Saints, I would take
well, they talked about this
right
on not Double Down Media is their thing, but they talked about this on their show. of who would you take. Like, if you could trade your quarterback with Justin Herbert, like, how many teams wouldn't? And they were like, obviously Kansas City wouldn't. The Bills probably wouldn't.
No.
Baltimore loves Lamar Jackson. They probably wouldn't.
Probably not.
But you start maybe the Seahawks, maybe not, because he's much younger than Russell Wilson. You know.
Yeah,
That's
it
you
gets kind of hairy.
The Rams, you would probably trade Stafford for Herbert, just age-wise. Just age-wise.
So. Yeah, you're right.
So you get
maybe
after those,
Kyler Murray in Arizona is good. Maybe
I think you
set.
stick with Kyler Murray. I think you stick with Kyler Murray. But
yeah.
other than like, there's probably 4 teams that probably wouldn't. Everybody else, you're kind of like, I don't know, Jim.
I think everybody in the NFC South would definitely take that, except for maybe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which have a seemingly
that is very
ageless Tom Brady.
I have to say that's very tough
mean,
because Tom Brady obviously just threw for I think like 400 yards and 5 touchdowns as well.
Yeah,
but
having one of his statistically
you get
the best
like a 24-year-old Justin Herbert versus a 45-year-old Tom Brady. So it's like you obviously would have Herbert for longer, but you can't trade Tom Brady.
No, you can't trade the GOAT.
You just won the championship.
That's blasphemy, Steven. That's blasphemy.
All right, who's
your
whiskey?
loser?
And then my loser is going to be on the other side. You just kind of talked about it, Cole. It's going to be Texas.
Texas. They were back for a half.
They were back for
They were.
They were back for. I'm pointing at you, and that you're right there. They were back for a half.
They looked so good in the first quarter, and even in the second quarter. 28-7 in the first quarter. 28-7.
I
mean, if you're a Longhorn fan right now, are you just not kicking yourself? I mean,
I'm going to talk about Texas a little bit more when we get into the Texas-Oklahoma game, but
for sure.
I think if you're Texas, obviously that stings, but I feel like you at least have stuff to look forward to.
Maybe a little bit of a moral victory there.
Yeah,
I mean,
you got
but Texas has had a lot of moral victories against Oklahoma in the last few years.
We'll get into it when we get to Texas-Oklahoma. But so
speaking
Texas was
of Texas
a loser.
teams, there
was
a winner in Texas this weekend.
Okay, so I like your transition. Bravo. So we're moving on to the recap of Week 6, and of course we have to lead off with Alabama losing to Texas A&M at Kyle Field. None of us saw this coming. I think we all picked Alabama to cover. I think
everybody in the country picked Alabama.
I think if you, we talked about it as well. We talked about it week by week. If you bet on Alabama to cover, you're winning more money than you're losing. Oof. Just oof. And we can
That's
get
all
in.
you could say,
I'll
really.
go ahead and get into the problems I saw, Cole, from Alabama. Obviously, we're going to talk
just break
more.
it down a little
all
bit,
credit
the
to Texas
problems.
A&M
Yeah, right.
because obviously Texas A&M played a heck of a
Phenomenal game.
You
Yes.
cannot
Their best game of
take
the
anything.
season, by far.
Best game of the season. Zach
By far.
Calzada had his Steven Garcia moment that we talked. I think we even talked about it on last week's show.
For what
of,
they
like,
had to do,
yeah,
they did it.
Yeah, exactly. And
They
we talked
did everything they had to
about
do.
that. This is like this is not. He's not a running quarterback, so this is
Right.
not what typically he did. The Steven Garcia, he did it. So Bama had no pressure up front. They could not pressure the quarterback.
No.
They were blitzing, and Texas A&M was picking up the blitz perfectly to their credit. But if you're Alabama and you have that front seven, you got to be able to get home, especially on blitzes. You can't blitz 6 and still allow Calzada a clean pocket. You just can't do that.
No pressure.
You're not going to
You're
win
right.
games that way. It was uncharacteristic Saban teams with the missed tackles on defense, as well as just undisciplined in
or at
there.
least of the last few seasons. We've seen this last 2 to 3 seasons. Under
We
Pete
have,
Golding,
but it's
so-
never been. At least when they lost, when they lost to Clemson in 2019,
where it was just a
2018?
blowout loss. and
2018,
they just-
right?
Right.
It
Clemson won
was
the national championship,
it was
right.
just Clemson just was better. They were just the better team overall. I think that
And of
year.
course,
I think everybody
LSU 2 years ago.
LSU. Yes, 2
Of course,
years
you were
ago.
going
'cause
up
that was
against a
2019.
monster of an
I
offense.
I
with
don't
Joe
think you're going
Burrow,
to stop
so-
anything. Like I was going to say, I think that was just LSU's year, right? But it was just they missed tackles. It took more than one. They couldn't bring them down. They were in position sometimes, and they just didn't take the right
They just
angles.
whiffed,
It was
right.
just undisciplined, which was to me uncharacteristic of a Saban defense at least. And then
Made the
I'll let
adjustments in
you
the
go-
second half, though. The
I was about to
defense did
say
make adjustments
they
in the
did
second
make
half,
adjustments,
right.
but if you still watch the late in the fourth quarter when Alabama should,
When it
that
mattered
is
most,
that is
right.
the time when you see Alabama's defense turn up the heat.
Kinda
They
clamp
finally
down and make
you
the
would
stop,
see
right.
it seemed like Alabama had the momentum going, and then they couldn't stop Zach Calzada. And if you cannot stop Zach Calzada, you're not going to stop many teams. Now, granted, again, he was throwing dimes. I mean, he was throwing perfect passes. But if you let I guess it all comes back to the pressure up front. Your DBs can only cover for so long. They had too long.
Absolutely, you're 100%
Too
correct.
long in a clean pocket. Most quarterbacks, even average ones, when they have a clean pocket and they can set their feet,
Yes,
it's very hard to cover
Yes.
that. But the DBs did not look good either. They weren't exactly in close coverage.
Two things that I always say.
They weren't white on rice.
Two things I always preach. It's not hard to win it's hard to win a football game, but it's not hard to understand how to win a football game.
It's not hard to win a football game.
No. Let me rephrase that. It's not hard to understand how a team wins a football game.
What is the Trent Dilfer?
Two things.
You have to score more points than the other team.
That's
to win
obvious. But breaking it down even further, two things you have to do. Number one, protect your quarterback.
Yeah.
And number two, pressure the other team's quarterback. And you
Definitely.
alluded to it. The number one thing, Alabama could not pressure Calzada, and Texas A&M got to Bryce Young.
Oh man,
repeatedly.
It was.
And
it
they
was
were bringing 4 or 5 man
It was the
fronts.
first
It was
half.
not blitzes
It was the
either.
first half versus second half again. Though it looked and the elite teams like Alabama, like Georgia, like Clemson, Ohio State. It seems that even when teams get them off in the first half, they usually wear them down, and that was happening in the second half for sure. Bama just had such a deficit that they just couldn't overcome from that first half. Texas A&M just put it on them too much in that first half, but it seemed like they wore out Texas A&M's defense.
Absolutely,
the defense
they did.
couldn't do anything in that second half.
I mean, they had 153 yards rushing. Brian Robinson averaged 6.7 yards a carry.
Oh my gosh, we can. I'll talk about that right now. Bama, they had them exhausted. They couldn't overcome the deficit. I think with the way the offensive line was performing and the way that Brian Robinson was performing, especially in that second half, the fourth quarter, I think in that situation, if you're Bama, you have to almost treat Robinson like you did Derrick Henry. Run the ball with him 40 times a game. You did that with Derrick Henry.
What he was averaging in the fourth quarter.
It was crazy.
Could not stop.
And it was there was one play when
None.
it was when Bama actually had to take a field goal, and we can talk about that that goal, that first and goal from the 4. What if you have to run the ball? Because you come off that play, you just get a first down, throwing it to Brian Robinson, who got 3 extra yards backpedaling. He had 2 defenders on him. He's backpedaling, gets 3 yards. If your guy is doing that, run the ball for 4 downs from the 4-yard line. You're not going to, even if he was getting hit behind the line of scrimmage, getting 4 more yards. So it's like he was in such a zone, and I feel like they didn't have a feeling almost of like, dude, he's crushing them. It was like it was the Derrick Henry. Like it was the Derrick Henry in Alabama. As they get more tired, he seems to get more energy. He seems to thrive off of like, okay,
I agree.
that guy hit me, I'm
Yeah.
going to keep going. It's almost like he builds off of that.
Yeah.
So I think, especially in this position, treat him like you did Derrick Henry. Run that ball 38 times a game. If he's going to do that to a team, it's demoralizing if you're a team that you're hitting the guy and you just can't bring him down. That's demoralizing.
And I will say this though, and I'm going to kind of disagree with you a little bit on one thing.
Yeah.
Although I will say Texas A&M played their best game, and I will give credit to Texas A&M where credit's due. I as far as safe now, the penalties were there, and some of these miscues and whatnot were there, but I think this goes a little bit further as far as the coordinator's position for Alabama, and I just think they had a really bad game. I think whatever game plan Bill O'Brien had did not fit the situation for what they had. They had 2 times where they were inside the 10-yard line, and they come away with field goals, and it essentially was because of just like you said. I mean, you had 3 straight downs where you throw the football and you don't give Brian Robinson, who's averaging 6.7 yards a carry, 1 carry.
That was the full game.
Carry.
That 6.7 is the full game. If you go just the fourth quarter, he had to be averaging like 10 yards. It was a lot.
and of course, Bryce Young throws an interception in the end zone. That doesn't help you. Fumbling, inside your own 40 doesn't help either. But
they had some mistakes, and then obviously you can go to that. They block a punt, so you get momentum kind of shifting back on your side, and then immediately you get the kickoff return. So
yep.
I wrote this down too. It feels like Bill O'Brien sometimes is trying. It's almost like he's trying to live up to the Lane Kiffin, the Steve Sarkisian at Bama. He's trying to get too fancy when all you need to do sometimes is be Alabama football and say, hey, we have better guys than you up front. We're going to run the ball down your throat 37 times a game. And if you stop that, maybe you're better.
We
but
saw
you're
that
not stopping
the
it
previous
right now.
week against Ole Miss. Alabama just asserted their dominance and just ran the football and said, hey, you can't stop us from running the ball.
They did it similar against Florida too. And I think it'll just open up the game so much more for Jameson Williams, John Mechie, and
speaking of guys who had a bad day, how about John Mechie? I mean, can we just talk about that receiving core for Alabama has been? Can we just say
Jameson Williams had a great day?
I mean, he had a great day. But Latu drops a touchdown pass, and then Mechie twice on 3rd down drops huge catches that could have extended.
Jaleel
the drives.
Billingsley couldn't get open either. He was not getting open. I mean, there was a pass that the pass that got intercepted actually in the end zone. Billingsley needs to, that's kind of, he needs to lob that ball more. Young needs to lob that ball more instead of making the bullet pass. But how are you not getting open? You're supposed to be this otherworldly tight end.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this in all credit takes to him. I mean, that defense, I think it was a linebacker, made a great cut on the ball. I mean, that was a great play. So it's not like,
they did.
But it's, get open. Like it's kind of in that mindset. We talked a little bit about the show. I think Alabama fans have this mindset, especially of we are supposed to be better. Like an Alabama fan, we are supposed to be better than every other team. Credit to Texas A&M. I mean, they had a great game plan going in.
Oh yeah, that's
Zach Calzada played the game of his
sure.
life. They had. If you watch the holes they had for running lanes too, I mean, you could drive a truck through those running lanes, and especially in the first half. Obviously, it's a different story in the second half. Bama seems to come back with a better game plan, seems to be re-energized and everything like that, wearing out Texas A&M. But yeah, I mean, I think they're all fixable things.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. So moving forward, do you see that this is something that Alabama can fix for the team moving forward and kind of run the table the rest of the way? Because now you're at a point where if you want to get that opportunity to get to the playoff, if you want that shot at Georgia, you have no hiccup games at this point. You have to win out. It starts this week against Mississippi State. Does the issues
just beat
look
Texas A&M? Who just beat Alabama?
Texas A&M?
I mean, yeah.
So it's hard to evaluate that. You take that with a grain of salt, obviously, but I mean, you'd like to think that Alabama's the better football team, obviously, but
they have better guys, but it comes down to, I think the most worrisome thing was the missed tackles. I think everything else you can fix a little bit. You can talk to your defense especially and be like, hey, I mean, maybe it's film. You sent a Will Anderson
play
clip.
calling obviously can be changed.
Do we have that Will Anderson clip? I can
change.
Summarize real quick if we
don't.
Okay, that's fine. Well, I mean, Will Anderson, you sent that clip of the linebacker from Alabama just staring down a reporter, and when he asks, what can you do better, basically, I think that was what the question was, and he's just,
we just got to play better.
We just got to play better. And then,
that look
intense,
of just determination,
that
and
8
intensity.
seconds of
Yeah.
silence and that intensity that they showed, and he talks about in that clip as well, watching film and how much they need to get in the film room and get on guys and talk to them. And I think they had like a meeting, a team-only meeting that he led too.
They did. Yeah.
So, and they asked him about
Will
being
Anderson
a
is
vocal
one of
leader.
those guys that Alabama has to have that steps up and becomes
Seems
that
like
leader
he did.
role, and I
It
think
seems like
that's what he did
And,
over this weekend.
Nick Saban
for
also
sure.
had a quote that he said, I always talk about respecting winning, and that's not necessarily about winning every game. It's that feeling that sense of loss and remembering that feeling that you felt.
And we
it's
don't
never,
want to have that again.
As I say, Saban
Right.
says, I love winning. I think Saban loves winning and competing so much
does,
is
of course.
because he hates losing so much.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
He loves
You're
it so
right.
much because he hates losing that much more than winning.
But this is a young football team, and I mean, a lot of these guys on this roster, guys, they have not experienced a loss since they've been there. You had the undefeated team last year. This is a team that's won 19 in a row up until that Texas A&M game. They just haven't really experienced that feeling. So this is going to be something to look forward to coming. Forward is how does this Alabama team respond with it being so young? And Will Anderson's one of those veteran, one of those guys that they're going to look to and say, hey, lead us, take us to where we need to be. And now you're looking at a young quarterback in Bryce Young. This is his first loss, obviously, as a starting quarterback. How does this team move forward and respond?
Let me ask you this, Cole, and then we can wrap up the Bama talk. Obviously, that needed to be a long-winded one because that was the most shocking game.
It was, by far.
I think to everybody in the college football world. Does Bama win out and play? And let me ask you this way: does Bama win out the rest of their schedule? And if they play Georgia, what do you think the results of that game will be?
You look at the teams they have left: the Mississippi States, LSU's, Auburn's, and Tennessee's. I think they'll be favored in all those games.
Yeah,
yes. I think that they will win out from here. I think you look at, first of all, Saban has never lost back-to-back games since 2007, so I don't see a loss this week against Mississippi State.
Speaking of 2007, this is also the first time he's lost to an unranked opponent.
Exactly. And I think that's being kind of overhyped. I mean, Texas A&M was a preseason top 10 team move.
They were a preseason top 5, weren't they?
Yeah,
they were number
preseason
5,
top
right?
5 team.
Yeah.
I mean, so let's not act like this team was just,
No, they weren't. They weren't Louisiana
suffered
Monroe.
2 L's.
They weren't Louisiana Monroe that he lost to in 2007.
Right.
It was just a team that was down and out.
I think it's being a little overhyped about how bad of a loss is to an unranked team. And A&M has been kind of teetering with ranked and unranked all season long. So, but I do see Alabama winning out the rest of the year, and I think they will face Georgia. And will it be a hard task? I think so. I think everybody can just assess that Georgia is a dominant team. Now, has Georgia been pushed to the brink to where their offense had to score, to where that defense had to make a bigger key stop? No, I don't think so. Not yet. And I don't think that Georgia will really play a potent offense until they potentially get to the SEC championship game and play Alabama.
Yeah.
That might be the first time we see that defense really tested by a true offense, because they don't play in Ole Miss. They don't play. They do play Florida in a couple of weeks.
They played
So, I mean,
Arkansas, but Florida is similar to Arkansas in that they're
run
not,
dependent.
Well,
They're
I was
so
gonna say they're not
dependent on the run.
one dimensional isn't the right word. They need to set up the run to set up everything. Their passing game.
Absolutely.
And Georgia, obviously, their strength is rush defense.
It's the rush defense. Correct.
You can say Arkansas is going to be probably the best, maybe the best offense they face until the championship game, which everybody sees them getting to, obviously. So, and obviously they shut those guys down. So
absolutely no. So I do see them getting there. How
who
that
do you
game
have,
goes.
I was gonna say, who do you have winning that game?
I'm really waiting to see how these next few weeks unfold, because I think we're going to find out a little bit more from Georgia playing Kentucky and Florida. So I'm going to reserve my prediction after these next couple of weeks.
You know, I heard that Vegas might have, if Georgia and Alabama were to meet like this weekend at a neutral site, Bama would be favored.
I don't think that's any doubt. I think that
you think Bama would be favored.
I think Alabama would be favored against a lot of teams.
But
this
Georgia,
weekend if they played.
Yeah, but you got to factor in JT Daniels as
he's not playing.
Right now,
I know, but
and
Vegas is factoring
Steven,
that
I
in.
think a lot of people are basing this Georgia team because look, there was a lot of Georgia fans out there that was rejoicing when Alabama lost this weekend.
Yeah.
But the thing is, a famous quote from I can't remember. I think it was Bear Bryant that said this: "To be the man, you got to beat the man."
Yeah.
And I think Georgia fans are kind of like they're like smiling, but it's like that meme where like it's a face mask where it's like smiling, but there's like a crying face behind because
they're crying.
You realize that Georgia, they're just kind of waiting for that other shoe to drop. I feel like.
Yeah.
It's going to happen at some point this year. It's going to happen.
I'm not disbelieving that Vegas might have Alabama favored, especially coming off a loss. They tend to play better. And like you said, they haven't lost back-to-back games since 2007, Saban's first year at Alabama. Obviously, we know what happened year after that. But, I mean, Georgia has looked. It has not been close, though. It's not like they've, maybe allowed a touchdown late. They haven't been within a touchdown of anybody. They've been so dominant that they're scary good because of the fact that you look at some teams like Alabama can be an example. Even last year, they're arguably one of the greatest teams to ever play, right? I think a lot of sports writers said that and everything like that. I mean, even last year, Ole Miss had a close game with them. Florida had a close game with them in the SEC championship game. And obviously, they steamroll most everybody else, but that's one of the all-time great teams ever, right? Georgia, what are we, 7 weeks in now? 6 weeks in? I guess we're 6 weeks in. There's been one offensive touchdown against your first team defense. This is another level of dominance.
And
it's
I
just
agree with
utter
you.
dominance.
I agree with everything you said. This is all accounted for because of the history of Georgia football. And you guys know what I'm talking about. 40 years, a drought of no championship.
Well, you look at 2017, they lost against Alabama. You look at I think it was 2018 the next year, they lose in the SEC championship game to Alabama. You look in 2020, didn't they play? No, they played Florida in the SEC championship game, I guess. But as I say, you look at their games with Alabama, especially too. It's been all Alabama.
It has.
And
I think that's the demon that they're just trying to exercise.
That's just what I go off of. Is like Georgia. It's been historically dominant. Let's move into the Georgia game that they just played. Georgia played Auburn this past weekend. Auburn with a tough loss. It was all Georgia. Auburn seemed to at least challenge them in the third and fourth quarter. In the second half, Auburn seemed to at least have some life because it didn't look like they had any life in the first quarter. But once they get into the second half, Auburn seems to have a little bit of life. They at least kick some field goals, if nothing else. Their defense is just too good. Auburn's strength, obviously, we talked about Arkansas and Florida being their strength rushing game.
46 yards on the ground for Auburn. It's just not
so
enough.
Let me ask you this: did Auburn abandon the run too soon in this game, knowing that Georgia's strength is their rush defense, but at the same time, Auburn's strength is their rush offense? Did they abandon it too soon? Did they just say we got to stop immediately, or was it kind of timed with how the game was going?
I think it was just timed with how the game was going. You're down 17-3 at one point, and I think at that point, you realize you need points. I think Mike Bobo and the offensive staff was sitting there saying, I mean, we can try to establish the run, but we need to get back in this football game. And obviously, a quick way to do that is try and get an explosive play through the pass game, through whether it be a trick play, whether it be some kind of misdirection, and they just weren't able to do it. I mean, they were running into a juggernaut. You've sat here for 5 minutes and hyped up this Georgia team as one of the historically great defensive teams. So
it just blows my mind. Like, we've seen great teams. Obviously, we've
Right.
seen Alabama, we've seen Ohio State, we've seen Clemson. It blows my mind how they're just not letting anybody get close. Like typically teams even play down to
Right.
lesser competition. So even lesser competition can maybe get a touchdown in the game. At the beginning of the game, maybe whatever else. You're down 7-0 in the first 2 minutes. Whatever. Like you let a Hail Mary go. Nothing, Cole. Like Arkansas was trapped behind the 10-yard line for 3 quarters. They couldn't get out of the 10-yard line.
And what's so great about Georgia's defense is they're doing this with a rather, I'm not going to say pedestrian, but I mean, let's just call it like it is. I mean, it's not like we've been wowed by this Georgia offense.
Yeah,
it's not been anything that's been very impressive. They're just winning field position, and the defense is playing so well. The offense is putting great position to score.
They're playing mistake-free football almost as well.
Absolutely.
So they're very
with their
disciplined.
backup quarterback.
Right, but so this is my note I had. Their offense isn't anything special. They make plays when they need to. They're dynamic enough to get to score on most defenses, and like you said, they get good field position and everything like that. They put themselves
field position really helps.
They don't
with your
hurt
defense,
themselves.
So exactly.
They do not hurt themselves.
Exactly.
And then I see Stetson and JT Daniels kind of similar in this fact that I feel like they're AJ McCarron's or Ian
They're
Books
game managers,
or Ian
right.
Books. They're game managers. They're not going to hurt you. They're not going to throw those stupid
but they're
interceptions.
not going to do anything that's going to win you the football game.
Nothing.
With,
this is what I literally
some wow
have.
Play.
Nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy.
But
No.
they make plays. They make the plays when you need them to make the plays.
Not Johnny
they make the
Manziel, not a
throws.
Cam Newton, but
they
they're
make the throws when you need them to make the
Right.
throws. And obviously, we've seen it's just. My other thing with Georgia's defense too is this era of college football has been so offensive based. Pretty much after. I guess you can
We're
go
seeing
back
kind
to
of an uprising of defensive play in both the pros and college. Though we've seen some
it's
really
almost like
good
the pendulum.
defensive play.
It's almost like the pendulum swung so much towards offense the last, let's say, 5 years.
It was just a matter of
It's almost
time.
like it's swinging. It's getting
Right.
more to a median where defenses are figuring out how to better defend this era
with these new rules
of pass
and
heavy,
whatnot.
RPO,
Right.
everything
Right.
else.
It's only a matter of time when you start figuring it out, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's so you can look back at maybe you can say 2016, 2017. You obviously look at LSU 2019's year with their offense being otherworldly. Obviously, they had a good defense too. Alabama's offense putting up crazy numbers last year in 2020, and Georgia saying, "All right, well, you guys are doing this. Let's let our offense score 30 a game, and our defense just shut you out. You're not going to score, but we'll score 30, which is obviously enough."
And then kind of doing what we did with Alabama. We talked about what are the fixable things and what they could do moving forward. Auburn now, 5 of 18 on third down. That was obviously a huge problem that they just couldn't keep drives alive and whatnot.
Yeah.
And Brian Harsin, what is that message that he's going to preach to this team moving forward? They have a early game in Fayetteville against Arkansas, against an Arkansas team that's, they put up a lot of points against Ole Miss. I know they come up short in the 2-1.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it
We
here
will
shortly.
talk about that.
But what is your message moving forward if you're Brian Harsin? Is this a team that, because now you're in a state, if you're Auburn, where it's hard, you're 4-2, 2 games obviously get to a bowl eligibility. Is there 2 wins out there in the rest of the schedule for Auburn that you see that are just, you can mark it down? That's a win.
So
maybe South Carolina, you traveled to Columbia to play South Carolina. I mean, obviously, I think you can
South
count that
Carolina's
as a
pretty bad.
win. But
South
I mean,
Carolina's pretty bad.
I mean, Arkansas, Alabama. I believe they play. I'm trying to think. Ole Miss
looking it up right now.
Mississippi State. To
so the
finish out
thing we talked
season.
about with Alabama is that they weren't getting pressure up front. I think it's kind of the opposite problem. If this makes sense for Auburn, they're allowing too much pressure. Their offensive line is so broken. It's just not even funny. Their pass protection is a joke, and that's why I don't think that.
Wow, that's some heavy criticism from Steven. Their offensive line is a joke.
I mean, I think you can ask Auburn fans. I think
criticism.
diehard Auburn fans will tell you the same thing. I mean, Bo Nix he's nothing like, I don't think you're going to see like he's not a Heisman winner or anything like that. But I don't think the fix is at quarterback necessarily because Bo Nix doesn't have 2 seconds before he has to roll out of the pocket. And I think it's, we can talk about whatever Bo Nix's problem has been throughout his career, but part of it's got to be psychological in the fact that you don't trust your offensive line to protect you for more than 2 seconds. So even when
That's
you
a
do
good
that,
point.
get that protection, your inner clock is ticking and saying, "Hey, I've been in the pocket for 2 seconds.
His inner
I got to
clock
roll."
moves probably a lot faster than other quarterbacks do
Yeah.
too, because he understands, hey, I got to either get the ball out quickly or I'm going to have to get out of here.
And you saw
quickly.
it. You saw it against
Right.
Georgia. He took. I think he took a couple of intentional grounding calls because he's trying to get away. He's trying to make something out of nothing. And it's not like, I don't think the receivers necessarily all that bad. It's just that he doesn't feel that he has time to go through his progression. So when that first read isn't there, and maybe it's Brian Harsin needs to kind of dial it back and go more quick slants, more faster, quicker developing routes.
That's the problem too, is separation at the wide receiver position. It doesn't seem to be there. Now, obviously, when your offensive line can't protect, it doesn't give your receivers enough time to get open.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it seems like that's been a problem. Obviously, you fire your wide receiver coach a couple of weeks ago because of those problems. It just seems like we don't have that dynamic playmaker to go and make a play for Bo Nix.
But I think we talked about, I think it was the beginning of the season, we talked about Auburn has never, or for really a long time, they haven't had a dynamic wide receiver that you can just say, okay, they don't have that Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, they don't have the Jamar Chase.
When was the last time that Auburn had a wide receiver go first round in the draft? Can we look up that?
Can you look that up, producer Tyler? I've got the schedule up. So this is the rest of while we're waiting on that. I don't know why I called you producer Tyler. While we're waiting
show host Steven.
While we're waiting on that, so this is the rest of Auburn's schedule.
We have a call coming in too. Could be spam or could be actual call.
If it's spam, I hope it's spam.
Love playing this game.
I hope it's spam.
You're on Under Review. Go ahead. Hello. Hello.
How's your day?
What?
How's your day?
Our day is going great.
How's your day?
How's our day going? I guess. Hey, our day is going great. We're on Under Review, and we're talking sports, so everything's going great for us.
Nice.
How's your day? Oh,
very
lost
nice.
The caller.
Okay, great.
So is that spam? Do we know that guy?
I still don't.
We honestly we don't know. Who knows?
Happy for the call though. Love it.
Yeah. Appreciate the call.
So
Thanks for coming out.
Auburn plays at Arkansas, like you just talked about. And they have Ole Miss at home. That's a tough game. Then they play at A&M, which obviously A&M maybe playing back to better, maybe improved.
Right,
we don't really know. Maybe that was just the game of their lives against Alabama. And then they have Mississippi State at home. Then they play at South Carolina. So I think in my book, I would say right now, just going off of right now, I would say they win versus Mississippi State at home because they have them at home. I think it might be different if you're in Starkville. And then you have South Carolina, who is just bad. So you at least have 2 wins.
You think you at least get to 6-6?
But I don't see them losing. Auburn's they're tough out. Now they didn't look like a tough out against Georgia, but it was Georgia. But they're a tough team.
Their 2 losses are obviously to 2 teams that are currently ranked in the top 10.
Right, correct.
So I mean, let's not act like this team is just
they're not
any good.
No. But they play so. I don't think they lose all 3 of the Arkansas, Ole Miss, A&M. I think they win at least one of those.
They shock one of those teams.
But I don't feel comfortable naming one of those right now.
You're not 100% sure, but if they play their best game.
I would be surprised if they win.
Has Auburn played their best game yet of the season? Do you think they have played a perfect game of football yet? Well, not perfect, but their best effort.
It's hard to say the first game of the year because obviously you're still working out kinks and everything like that. But that was when Auburn, and it's against Akron. So what do you really learn from that?
No, I wouldn't say that.
I mean, they played good against LSU. Obviously, it's still a close game.
Very competitive against Penn State.
But that's at LSU. They were very competitive against Penn State, who we now know is a very good team. And we'll talk about that Penn State loss later. But I think Penn State wins that game if Sean Clifford doesn't go out. I just don't see them losing all 3 of those. It would surprise me if they lose to Arkansas, Ole Miss, and
It would surprise me. Well, actually, I'm going to go ahead and say this. It would not shock me if they lost all 3 of those games because this team, it would shock me if they obviously won all 3 of them. But, I mean, this team has just been kind of wishy-washy this year as far as how they perform. So, I mean, they were very close to losing that LSU game.
They were.
I mean, everybody
were.
They
were close to losing to Georgia State.
That's what I'm saying. They were close to losing to Georgia State and LSU, and they were competitive against Penn State. So I really don't know how to read this Auburn team. It's very hard to understand which direction this team's going to go.
I thought they might cover against Georgia just because they are tough out. Obviously,
Steven has been so adamant about 18.5 is a lot of points. 20.5 points is a lot of points. And each time that you've done that, the team has lost.
If we're going back on the 18.5, that is a bleep a lot of points.
If you are a fan that's betting against the Georgia Bulldogs, do not listen to Steve because every time he said that seems like a lot of points, they win by that amount of points. So.
But a rivalry game, I am justified in those picks. Now, did I get them right?
Rivalry
Absolutely
game.
not. But did I get them right? No.
No,
Was
no,
I justified
no.
in my thinking? Yes.
Yes. You were
That's all I
justified.
want.
Yes.
I got the stat for you.
Okay.
So,
I love it. Let's go.
Do y'all want to take a guess before?
So this is Auburn.
who's the
This is
receivers?
Auburn receiver in the first round.
First round.
And so am I guessing the year or the player?
You're gonna guess the
Or both.
year.
Because
you're not gonna-
So
you're
it
not
wasn't-
gonna-
There's no way we're gonna get the receiver.
Hold
You're
on,
gonna get
hold
the
on.
No way.
decade. Get the decade. How about that?
Oh gosh, was it in the 90s?
No.
No.
It was after that. They had a really good. What was it? 2004. They were undefeated.
Yes.
The early
That's when I
2000s.
went.
Then was that it?
No.
It was no. It was. I'm.
I'll give it to
Do they
you.
have a first round in 2010 to 2020?
No.
Well, I mean, you're looking
Not
at it.
not at the receiver position.
Okay, so just give it to us.
1972. Terry
Wow.
Beasley.
That was their
for
last
the
first round
49ers.
receiver.
Last time they had a first round receiver draft.
First
What
round.
did they not have a
Wow.
second rounder in like 2015?
I mean, sure, I'm sure they had a
This is-
second round.
yeah,
We're talking about
I know,
exclusively, you know,
but I'm just saying, like in like 2015, it wasn't that long. Maybe 2016. Didn't they have a second rounder?
that's a
I'll get on
long
it.
time ago.
Yeah,
to
get
have,
on that.
To have a talented
Auburn
receiver
second
that
round
makes it.
receiver. We're gonna go through all 8 rounds and
all-
see
all
when their
I-
receivers were drafted.
This is the kind of research we do on Under
This
Review.
is the show you tune in for. Okay, it is
That is
Auburn
crazy, though.
drafting every year.
That's nuts. 1972. That's insane.
That's what we talked about. It is you don't think of Auburn and you think of great receivers. You think of a great run game and a great defense. You don't even think of a great quarterback except for Cam Newton.
outside of Cam Newton. I mean, Jason Campbell, the last big.
I don't think of Jason Campbell though as like.
I mean, he started in the NFL at one point. So I mean,
Greg McElroy started in the NFL at one point.
okay, all right. Well, you have to trump every
I'm
point.
pretty
I make,
positive
don't you,
Brody
Steve?
Croyle started a game in the.
And you're right. And you're right. He did. So Auburn obviously kind of
Trent Dilfer.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just gonna name bad quarterbacks.
Well, don't get me started on Trent. He won a Super Bowl, so let's not go too far
That
with
is
Trent
the worst.
Dilfer.
But okay, we won't get into
No,
that.
let's not. Let's say that for
I
another
thought
day.
about it.
So Auburn obviously trying to pick up the pieces after losing to obviously, as you've said, a great Georgia team. So they'll look to try and bounce back this week against Arkansas. We'll talk about that game moving forward. Texas, we alluded to it in our winners and losers, blows that 28-7 lead. Tyler talked about it. Just the Longhorns, they just couldn't take advantage of the fact that they were so close to probably taking that game over and just completely shutting it down. But Oklahoma obviously gets the momentum back and wins it in the closing seconds. Steven, I mean, is this team getting further away from being, as you say, is Texas back? Is Texas back? Are they getting closer, though? Or because you said this might be kind of a moral victory type deal. Are they?
So my point with that is I don't think you can take a moral victory out of losing to Oklahoma.
To a
losing
rival, I guess, right? Yeah,
so I
it's
don't
hard
think you
to
can
do
take
that,
a
for
moral
sure.
victory. I think that when you watch especially obviously their offense under Steve Sarkisian, you see it's hope. You're like, okay, our offense is doing things that they have not done in a really long time. And you don't have Sam Ehlinger anymore, who was a pretty good quarterback in college at least. So the way they're performing, I think that you look forward to it. I think they have the number 3 recruiting class right now in 22 as well. So I think if you're Texas, you see an Oklahoma team that is undefeated, that is projected to go to the playoff, that is not a complete team, but still, you put it to them, and obviously they let their foot off the gas, they lose it. You don't take a moral victory out of losing that, but you can have hope moving forward, I think. So are they closer to getting back? I think they're probably the same as they were at the beginning of the season under Sarkisian. I don't know if they're like, they were back for the first half. But yeah, I mean, I think that
But it seems to be the same issues, though, Steven.
It's defense.
It's defense, right?
And I think Big 12, we can have a whole show on the Big 12 playing defense. But I think if Steve Sarkisian can find the right guy to run that defense, to maybe fix some issues, maybe put them in the right positions, maybe just a good recruiting class coming in as well for the defense, because we've seen Sarkisian recruit at USC, at Alabama.
Obviously at
He's
Alabama,
a great
right.
offensive mind and a great
talent,
and a great
course.
recruiter for that offensive side. Now, can he find the right coordinator or the right guy to go out and get the right defensive players and put them in a position to be successful? I don't know. That's TBD. I think that's the piece you're missing right now if you're Texas, because especially if you look at Texas, almost none of these are Sark's guys. So obviously we give them the 3 to 4 year or whatever, get your guys in, see how they're performing, and then kind of judge is Texas back or whatever. So are they back? No. do they look? Can you find hope in these things? Yes. It's very. Let's put it this way: it's very different than the Nebraska situation.
Oh, night and day there.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a very different situation.
In Nebraska,
for sure. Right.
down they're playing tougher in this later in the season. Nebraska is a tough out now, but it's just you don't really see hope. You don't see progression that you want to see. Texas, you definitely see offensive progression. You see a change in that offense.
On the flip side, you talk about progression for Texas. Oklahoma now, obviously they move forward with Caleb Williams. We touched on the loser, Spencer Rattler.
We don't even have to, because I really don't know what you do. Do you give it back? Because Caleb Williams, you have him for at least 2 more years because he's a freshman. He's a true freshman. So do you roll the dice and play Spencer Rattler and try to make both guys happy and just know you have a great backup in case, kind of thing? Or do you say, okay, we saw enough from Caleb Williams, let's go with that roll route.
The dice.
Yeah,
right.
I don't know what you do. I mean, again, it's a great problem to have because you got 2 great quarterbacks, but I don't know what you do.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma is still a team that has a chance. Obviously, if they run the table, they can get to the playoffs. So, I mean, this is a situation you need to solve because you have to get that locker room and corral them around that one
Oklahoma
guy.
Play next?
I'm not sure. Texas obviously has Oklahoma State next week, which, I mean, quietly undefeated.
Look, you did read my rundown. I'm so proud.
I mean, they're quietly undefeated and still contending for the Big 12 title. So that Battle of Bedlam at the end of the year, that could be a very interesting game. They play TCU. Is that what I see?
Yeah.
So, I mean, essentially probably a dub for Oklahoma.
It is a
but
dub.
We've assumed that a lot of these games this year were going to be wins for Oklahoma, and they've been really close. We assumed that West Virginia game would not be close, and obviously they had to kick a field goal to win it. So maybe the spark of...
One of the themes on this show is that me picking against the spread is very bad, and that we say each week that, okay, Oklahoma... this is the week.
Now, but they did have the offensive explosion this week against Texas. They just didn't balance it with a few defensive stops. I kept bragging on Oklahoma, saying, "Wow, they're playing better defense this season." Then what do they do against Texas? They give up 48 points, and Texas was seemingly moving the ball at will against them. So. Oklahoma's got some issues to try and solve out, obviously, with the quarterback situation and maybe figuring out a little bit better defense. So we'll see.
So we got some replies on for our Auburn talk earlier. You know who the quarterback was for the receiver that was drafted in 72 for Auburn? Any guesses? Cole, don't cheat. You can see my
I already
screen.
cheated and I saw the Facebook comments, so you can tell me what it is.
Who was
it? It was a Heisman winner, Pat Sullivan.
Oh, Pat Sullivan. Okay.
That kind of helps your wide receiver.
Thank you,
when you
Connor.
have such
Sorry,
a
I
great
wasn't reading Facebook. I was not even looking at comments.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love those stats. But that's very interesting moving
He says
forward.
Texas' next chance to say that they are back is week 2 of 22 versus Alabama. Until then, Colt McCoy was a long time ago. That was his comment.
I mean... And
I don't even know who Terry Beasley is, by the way. I'm assuming that's an Auburn wide receiver. I'm just reading the Facebook comments at this point. This is part of the show.
Thank you, Connor Davis, our loyal Auburn fan on the stream. We love that.
Yeah, somebody's got to do it.
Speaking of some high-scoring games, Ole Miss beats Arkansas on a play that's been kind of heavily debated, and we're gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna let you play.
Was there time? Was there time?
No, there was not.
Ooh.
No, I don't think there was any time left in that game. No.
Okay.
I think the clock definitely hit 0. There's no 1 second, before the Auburn fans come in and say, well, you can't forget about 1 second. Can't forget about it. Before they come out with me that. I'm going to let you play head coach for a little bit here, Steven. If you were Sam Pittman in that situation, you had to do it over again. Would you still? I mean, you don't know obviously if you're going to get it or not.
You're talking about the go for 2?
Go for 2.
Sorry, the go for 2.
Do you still think? Do you think that was the right call to go for 2 in that situation?
I never don't like that call.
I'm with you. I don't like to put it on one play.
I am never
put the whole game on one play.
I
never
for
think.
I go for the win.
No,
I think.
I don't think
this would be my. If I am the head coach, this is my headspace. Right, going into that is if you score right, you score the touchdown, you have a chance to tie with an extra point, or obviously win the game with the 2-point conversion. I talk to my team and I say, what do you guys think? I want to hear from my quarterback and I want to hear from my offense and say, do you guys want to win now Like, what do you feel? You know, and if my team comes to me and they're confident,
Stephen's getting really philosophical right now.
well,
Wow.
don't you think that confidence in a situation like that really, really matters for your offense? And your offense is rolling.
Kind of like how Lamar Jackson on Monday night.
Exactly.
Yeah, it comes to Jim Harbaugh and says, or not Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, and says, yeah, we're going for it.
Yeah.
Come on, coach, we're going for it.
Well, you
Let's
know,
go.
like, and obviously he was so praised. John Harbaugh was so praised for letting Lamar Jackson
So
decide
I guess
that.
one of those things. If you make it, you look a genius. If you don't, you're going to get criticized.
It's one of those. We talked
live
about
by
it.
the sword, die by the sword.
We talked
type
about the
deal.
Bill Belichick
Yeah.
kick against the Tampa Bay Bucks. You know, if he makes that, genius, right? If he misses, why'd you kick a 56-yarder, you know, on 4th and 2 or something like that?
I have just never been a guy who's been a fan of putting the game on one play. I don't know why that's just been my mentality, but I always feel like if you play a 60-minute football game, why would you want to just risk it on one
Don't you
play?
think that gives you kind of like that guy's got some cojones?
I mean,
know?
yeah, no, Sam Pittman, and I think we can all still agree. I think Sam Pittman still is probably one of the Coach of the Year campaign for the SEC at least.
Definitely.
But I mean, not to overshadow his coaching job he did in the game, Arkansas played a great game. Obviously, Ole Miss, I mean, the two quarterbacks played almost flawless.
Can
on each
Arkansas
side.
get the sneaky good label? Are they sneaky good?
Well,
or are they playing
You're
good?
sitting at 4-2 now. So
But
I
are
mean,
they playing
I
good
don't
or
know.
sneaky good? What are we, you know, because my thing is sneaky good. I want to know if I can put
I
that
guess
on
you
them.
can still say they're sneaky good because for they might be one of the best 4-2 teams out there. But I mean, Ole Miss is in there as a one-loss team,
Right.
so I mean, they might be.
Can we talk
sneaky
about?
good
Can we
too,
talk about? So two things I want to talk about Ole Miss. For one, they cannot stop anything.
Nothing. No.
Their defense is wide open. Second of all, did Kiffin see that ESPN story on College Game Day about the D3 school that never punts? Did he see that and was like, I want to be that?
I'm pretty sure his analytical mindset is that
But
we're just better off just
down,
going for it.
It's so many fourth downs.
But I think they were weren't they 4 for 4 on Saturday?
I don't know, but I know their first drive they went for it on 3 downs, 4th downs and got them. Similar to the Alabama game where they went for it on 3 4th downs, but they didn't get the last one.
I know you're the stat guy. You ready for some of these stats I'm about to throw at you?
I love the stats.
Both teams combined for over 1,200 yards of offense. Whew. Both teams had over 600 combined rushing yards, and both teams were a combined 6 of 7 on 4th down.
Whew.
Crazy offensive stat. And it begs the
was,
question:
you know
is
what this reminded me of too? The Auburn. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine.
Auburn Arkansas game that I think we mentioned it earlier with between Cam Newton and oh gosh, what was
Ryan
that?
Mallett.
Yeah, Ryan Mallett. That's
yep.
what this game reminded me of.
We talked about it last week.
I'm going to bring up every show in this show. Go ahead.
No, it's KJ Jefferson obviously played a great game, and I've been one who's been really critical of him and saying that I didn't think that he could make some big passes. And
I thought he was good.
He did. He made some good big passes, and Matt Corral obviously helped his maybe still Heisman campaign. Maybe I don't know.
I think
if
he's
that's still there.
I think
Maybe
Bryce Young and him are still kind of top of because he didn't do anything to hurt his case against Alabama. It was just they were outmatched.
Did he really help his case on Saturday? I mean, he had 287 yards passing, 2 touchdowns against Arkansas. Does that
yeah,
really
but his
help
rushing yards, he had really good rushing stats.
That's true too.
He had what?
I think
he had at
KJ
least
Jefferson
2
and
rushing
Matt Corral were
touchdowns.
both the leading passers and leading rushers on both their teams. I think
that's a good. That's a good day.
I guess so. So Arkansas a loser, but Ole Miss moves on as a winner. So they're a 1-loss team, still heading with much left to play for. Obviously for Ole Miss.
Let's speed through these last two so we can get on to the NFL and then
Absolutely.
get some previews here. So Iowa Penn State. Obviously, this is a top 5 matchup. This is the big game that everybody was watching. That's not in the SEC. Everybody who's in the SEC watching other games. But so Iowa Penn State goes to Iowa. I mentioned it earlier. I think that Penn State wins this game. They had all the momentum. Sean Clifford goes out. Their backup QB is bad.
Not
really bad. And you can talk about how they lost their backup QB to Kentucky, who is now undefeated. So if maybe the transfer portal thing doesn't kind of work the way it is now, maybe Penn State actually has a decent backup. What's the Kentucky's quarterback name?
It's Levi's, but I can't remember what his first name is. I'm not 100% sure if we can. I'll look.
We can look it up. We can look it up.
It's Will Levis.
Will Levis. That's
Levis.
it.
Okay.
That's it. Levi's was right. You had the spelling right.
I can't remember if it's Levis or Levi's or whatever his name
So
is.
my only notes I really have for this one is that I don't think Penn State's done yet. If they win out, they're in. Penn State obviously is in a different division than Iowa in the Big Ten. So Penn State
they can get a rematch against Iowa, obviously. So
if they make it to the Big Ten championship,
Right.
yeah. So Penn State obviously still has to play Michigan and Ohio State. Now that's a tough gauntlet they have to face, especially if Clifford's out. We don't know.
But
I
those
don't
are
think I've
games that
seen
can
any,
help your resume to get yourself back into the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying,
win,
and I
so.
don't think we've seen any status on Clifford.
That's going to be big for them moving forward. If he's
Franklin
out.
won't release it.
No,
They've been
he
asking,
won't.
and he won't say anything. If he's out,
No.
that they're.
No, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough for Penn State. If Sean
But if
Clifford
they're
can't come back,
if he's
for sure.
in, I do think they can still. I don't think they're done yet. I think they beat at least one of Ohio State or Michigan. Probably Michigan, but
maybe.
The other note I had for this is Iowa just continues to win the Iowa way. They refuse to move away from the Iowa way of, hey, we're going to get these big beefy linemen and we're going to run and we're going to play very conservative offense. We're going to play great defense. We're going to make you turn it over at least one or two times, and we're going to win that turnover battle.
I got to say, I'm going to have to learn my lesson at some point, Steven. I got to quit betting against the Hawkeyes.
I would have,
I keep
but
saying
so,
they're boring. They can't do
they
this.
are?
They can't do that.
But hey, they
my
win
God,
games.
they find ways to win. They just keep doing it. And so I think at this point, does Iowa play Michigan or Ohio State? They will go undefeated then.
I think
to the Big Ten championship.
Yeah,
they will go undefeated.
They're
100%.
They don't play another.
There
ranked
is
team.
not another team on their schedule that will even come close to beating them. They will go undefeated and will play.
I don't
either
know.
Ohio
They'll
State,
play. I
Michigan,
bet they'll
or Penn
play
State.
down to some of their competition. I don't think they lose, but I bet it'll be close in a couple games.
I'm fully committed at this point, Steven. I'm done betting against them.
You're in the Kirk.
I'm officially a Hawkeyes.
You're in the Kirk Ferentz. I love
bandwagon
it.
fan.
I love it.
They are going undefeated.
The last note I have for this game is Iowa's center is insanely good. Have you watched him? Like
I gotta say, Steven, when I'm watching a football game, I don't
watch the center?
I don't really pay attention.
The only
to the
reason I say
Steven
this,
watches film. So.
I don't.
Yeah. Steven sits there and he's got his little clicker.
I get the
sitting there watching
I get the all 22.
Man, that's a nice A gap block right there. Nice.
I get
pulling guard.
I get the all 22 out, and I get all the different stuff.
Coach 30.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's the only reason I notice him is because on their run plays, normally you pull the left guard, you pull the tackle, they pull their center on almost all of these. He's their lead
We
blocker.
need to have another show, and it's gonna be Steven's film room. We're just gonna have Steven's with a clicker just going through.
I'm
watching
sure you
A gap
see,
and B gap.
I'm sure you see like Cole Kubelik like point him out and like
For
who is
sure,
that?
of
Is it
course,
Sam?
I hear him talk about.
Is it Sam Schwartz? Is that the guy for the that does the spoon on the TV? Yeah,
Yes.
they love some. I think his name is Lindenbaum. I think that's his last name.
I think so too.
He is like. You see those like pancake blocks in the NFL or whatever else. I mean, every play is a pancake block. For him.
Let's say Iowa gets the maple syrup out.
Oh my
Don't they?
gosh!
Yeah, they do.
All
For
right.
sure.
Last game we'll talk about, and then we'll go into our NFL review, and then we'll go through our previews really quick because we went really long.
The
Obviously,
big
there
winner
was-
from the state of Alabama.
That was the huge winner in the state of Alabama. UAB wins their first home game at Protective. It's Protective. Sorry, Protective Field. Obviously, we can touch on the 100-plus yard pick six they had. Grayson Cash.
Oh my gosh!
Really
is that a school record for the
it
longest?
It was
score?
the
Yeah.
longest score for
what I
in
thought.
UAB history. Obviously, that kind of turns the game. FAU was marching down the field. I think they were going to tie it at that point in the game, I believe. And then they get the pick six and obviously changes the whole landscape of the game. The UAB defense shines again. They're playing very well, as always. They're Bill Clark. I wrote this down. Bill Clark's team is similar to an Iowa team, is that they're going to run the ball. They're going to usually have a really good offensive line, and then they're going to play great defense. And they're going to get some takeaways. And that's like the only problem with Bill Clark is that his offense also likes to throw the ball away.
They do. And that's what I wrote down on my notes was Dylan Hopkins took care of the football. And that was the big thing for
He
UAB.
didn't have a great game.
He didn't have a great game, but he didn't lose it. He
did
didn't
not
force
lose it.
them to lose the game, obviously.
And they didn't have as good of a rushing game as they typically do in this scenario.
Well, Coach Clark talked about it after the game. He said that what he preaches to the team is he wants 5 turnovers every game forced by their defense.
Yeah.
5. He said, hey, we got 4. We were 1 off. He said, but it was a pretty good day. And I thought that was a great point to make. But UAB, like you said, they're a team that's going to want to run the football and play solid defense, win the field position, whatnot. They're going to play
they're the Iowa of Conference USA.
They are. They have that tough mindset, but they're going to play a very very struggling Southern Miss team this week.
1-5 Southern Miss.
Yeah,
and that's
not looking very good.
Conference USA, the non-power fives, the way they do like rivalry games is ugh. Because this is technically UAB's like rival, but it's not. I don't. I would say Western Kentucky is more of a rival than
the next
Southern Miss.
The next challenge I think UAB is going to play is
maybe
not
La
until
Tech.
Texas San Antonio. I think that's the next game.
UTSA is really good.
They're
though.
really good this year. So
and
I
so
think
is
that's
UTEP, which is weird.
Yeah.
Why are they
UTEP's
good?
they're at the end of the year, right? They're the last game
I
of
don't know. I
UAB's
haven't looked
football
at the
season. I think UTEP's the last game. I think, and San Antonio is somewhere in that mix. But I think UTSA is going to be obviously. I think UAB's probably first big test because I think they're going to go through a bunch of weeks.
Yeah, they play
here.
back to back UTSA at UTSA, which is probably their biggest test. Marshall's, and then
you got Rice in there.
UTEP, they have Rice at home, La Tech at home, at Marshall, at UTSA, UTEP at home.
I think you're going to go a couple of weeks here where UAB is just going to really assert their dominance on Conference USA for a few weeks.
I'm not going to do it that way because every time I do it that way, we lose. I'm not going to whisper it. I think they might run the table.
Maybe. Now we'll see how good Texas San Antonio. Obviously,
maybe. They're going to run
Texas
the table.
El Paso. We all assumed that Alabama was going to beat Texas A&M this weekend as well, Stephen. But hey, I mean that didn't happen either. So
confidence is key.
At this
Cole.
point,
we're
this
going for
season,
2.
At this point in the season, I don't doubt anything from happening. So
all right, we
UAB
have
a winner.
Last thing for college football, we'll wrap up. We'll move on to NFL this past weekend. Facebook commenter is what I'm going to call him now. Connor Davis, bold take. The winner of Auburn, Arkansas determines who finishes second in the West. Ole Miss folds after a hot start, and Lane Kiffin is the first choice for LSU after Coach O is let go.
The only reason I don't like that take is because Ole Miss and Auburn still have to play, and Ole Miss has already beat Arkansas. So that's what I'm trying to say. So they've already beaten Arkansas.
Well, if Auburn beats Arkansas and Ole Miss,
right? No, I think Auburn can still be that second place team. What I'm saying is Texas A&M obviously still firmly holds a potential to be that second place team as well.
Well,
they still have to play.
They lose to Mississippi State and
Arkansas.
Right. So they lost 2 West games.
Right, but Arkansas obviously has a lot of road left in front of them as well. So
that's true.
That battle for second place is going to be kind of neck and neck.
It's going to be kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of crazy.
I think Lane Kiffin would be the first choice for lots of programs, though, if he was to leave Ole Miss.
Yep.
All right, so let's move on to NFL. The first game, we're going to move really quick through this, and then we're going to go into our previews. We're going to move quick through that because I think we took like an hour on what we just talked about, which is great stuff.
We did. We had
good show.
Good stuff.
Great stuff. I love it. All right, so the Falcons win in London. It was the Jets.
It was the Jets. Really?
That was my...
You're not going to talk about Matt Ryan having a great game? 33 for 45, 342 yards passing?
Was it like 50,000? No, not 50,000. He just got one of 5 quarterbacks.
A big milestone?
To get that,
Matt Ryan played great, but your opening response is the Jets is the Jets. That's what we're going to go with?
Cole,
come on, Steven. Come on.
Showed out for the
Kyle Pitts actually had a game.
You had Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage, right?
Yeah.
They were both out for Matt Ryan.
That's what I was about to say, but that's why Kyle Pitts showed out.
A good point, but
it's the Jets.
Okay, it's just the Jets, right?
They beat the Titans.
The Titans. They've been playing better.
The Titans were without AJ Brown and Julio Jones.
That's true too. That's it.
Still beat them
again. But the problem, we talked about this. I'm going to go on a rant again. The Falcons are just going to be good enough to get the 15th.
What's their record
pick.
right now? Are they
2-3?
2-3.
They're gonna go 7-9, and then they're gonna get the 15th pick in the NFL draft again, and then we're back where we are right now, Cole.
Still right where we are. No, the Falcons are gonna have to make some kind of offseason moves. They're gonna have to trade and do something. Right? I mean, they're gonna have to do something besides lean on draft picks.
I'm very, very not understanding of the NFL cap because how is a team like the Falcons in NFL in cap hell? How? What are we spending on?
Well, that's one of 2 teams in the NFC South that is in cap hell right now.
The Saints are
too.
But
The Saints are way in cap
But the
debt
Saints
right
have
now,
been good, though. It's not like the Saints have been like mediocre like the Falcons. The Falcons have been mediocre since 2016.
And they're paying players like crazy, right? Yeah, no. They
have
made some very bad contracts.
My brain doesn't comprehend the NFL cap because how are the Rams just like trading every first-round pick ever, and they have one of the best rosters ever? How are the Bucks able to keep literally everybody on their roster from a Super Bowl winning team, along with Tom Brady?
Well, you have guys like Tom Brady and Jason Pierre-Paul taking pay cuts. That's a big thing that helps.
Their contracts?
No.
Okay.
I don't want to look at that.
He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to mull over it too much.
Don't rub salt in the wound.
So the Falcons play better. 9 of 14 on third down. That's big.
They were good. They looked
450 yards of total offense.
But the problem is they looked kind of good, and then they let the Jets come back.
They
should have won this game 27-10, and they won it 28-20.
Yeah, you're right. And
it's the Jets, and they let them score 20 points.
The Jets, the red zone continues to be a haunting place for Zach Wilson and this team. The Jets, just when they get in the red zone, it's just like they don't know what to do.
I didn't even write any notes on this game because I just wanted to yell at the Falcons.
Well, I mean, there's nothing really to say. The Falcons won. They're the better team. I mean, there's not really much to say about it. But the Jets just continue to just look, even against a Falcons defense that's not that great, they just struggled to move the football consistently. And like I said, in the red zone, it just seems like they just stall every time.
Exactly.
Just no idea what to do.
Except for again, it's the Jets. But every other game they play,
still an NFL roster. But I mean, it's the Jets. I get
it is, but
Zach
technically,
Wilson a bust?
No.
What do y'all think?
No, I think it's
I
too
think
early.
he's-
I think it's
he's
too
way-
early.
I think he has
it's
too
way
much
too
talent
early right now.
He's just decision making he's struggling.
Let's
with,
not
obviously.
get carried away because we just had an example of a quarterback who left the Jets and went to a different organization and is now kind of having a better season. So,
but he hasn't played good the last 2 weeks.
yeah, but they've been playing better competition. I mean, the Cowboys.
That's what I'm saying. When he plays better competition, he hasn't
okay.
played good.
I didn't say the Panthers were Super Bowl contenders, Steven. I just said he's
Colorado.
playing better. Anyways,
let's move on to your team because we just talked about my team. I can yell at my team. I wish I could yell at your team. We talked about this. I'd say it's good.
Look, the win was much needed. You're going into the bye week now. There's still a very injured roster. To get this win, Jameis played great, and finally
You got the full Jameis experience too, because
Oh
you
my
got
gosh,
like
wow.
the Hail Mary, you got the bad throws, you got the craziness, and then I think he had
This
fumbles.
is what you're going to get with Jameis Winston, though. This is what you're going to get the rest of the season. You're going to get wild throws from the deep ball, but you're also going to get some throws where you're like,
at least it's exciting.
where you're just like kind of holding your breath that doesn't get picked off. But Marquez Callaway obviously has his breakout game and obviously comes through. And for fantasy owners that have Marquez Callaway, you're obviously rejoicing for that. But the bye week is what you need. You're really trying to get guys like Michael Thomas.
I was gonna say, when does he come back?
So, hey, fingers crossed. But
After the bye week?
it's supposed to be after the bye week. Week 7 versus Seahawks is supposed to be having Michael Thomas, Taron Armstead, Traquan Smith. All these guys are supposed to be coming back. If this team could get healthy right at the right time, they could run through this schedule and be ready for when they play the Buccaneers in a few
So
weeks.
the answer is yes, they are good.
I think they're good.
Okay,
they just need to be
cool.
healthy. Just need to be healthy.
Tyler, are the Bears good?
Are the Bears
We're moving
good?
on from
Not
the
yet.
Saints. Are the Bears good?
Are the Bears good? The Bears are
Duh, Bears.
No, not really.
No,
they
we're
did
not
beat
good.
the Raiders. This
That's what I'm
past
saying.
Weekend, so
Beat the Raiders.
You want to move on?
Pass rush looks
Here's
good.
here's my real question though. Here's
Yeah,
my real
we can.
question
Well,
because
as soon as he gets off this question, we'll move on to that.
does
Can't wait for
this buy Matt Nagy time as the head coach?
I don't think it really
Is that win
changes
satisfying
anything.
enough? No, it doesn't change
I
anything.
don't think it changes anything.
No, the Raiders are
You gotta
kind
look
of.
at- you gotta look at the whole.
We'll get into
resume.
this. We'll get into
You
this
can't
too.
just look at one.
The
game.
Raiders are reeling.
No, what I'm saying is if the Bears
it buy 'em
continue this
time?
trend of where if they keep winning these games, because we've seen this in the past where you want to fire a coach,
The Bears
but they
defense-
just keep.
Bears defense is kind of back.
Yeah, it's always been legit. the
I know,
past
but
couple
they
of
did
years.
not look good. Was it the first 2 games? They looked pretty bad.
Yeah,
Well, they
the
were
offense
they
kept
were
turning
playing
the
some
ball
pretty good
over.
I know,
offensive teams though.
They looking good though. The Raiders have been pretty good offensively until this week.
Yeah.
So
They-
I'm just telling. I'm
they're-
trying to
they're
praise the
legit.
Bears
They're-
defense.
they're
So
definitely top
so
10
Matt Nagy
defense.
still loses his job at the end of the year. You think?
I think it depends
if
on his
what you're
record.
Asking if it buys them time, like assuming you probably thought they'd get fired mid-season, right?
I thought if the Bears kept continue to kind of spiral and lose games and the Justin Fields situation didn't get better, I assumed that Matt Nagy would be out before the end of the year. Yes.
No, I don't think they'll fire him mid-season. I think they'll wait.
Okay.
No, yeah, I don't think they fire him midseason.
Honestly, I think they're still weighing their options for next season.
I'll be
Like,
interested.
Who's going to be that fit? For
I'll be interested to
Justin
see
Fields.
how they finish the season,
Yeah,
and then
me
we'll
too.
go from there. Okay, moving on because we just touched on the Raiders. I just want to talk about this real quick because Tyler brought it up the other day, and I think it's an interesting conversation. Obviously, we have the big news in the NFL comes out Monday night. John Gruden is fired. And he's not fired at halftime, but they announced his firing of halftime at in the Monday Night Football show. Obviously, he has lots of emails that are very negative in what they speak of people. We don't really have to talk on that. I think we can all agree they were bad emails.
Yeah.
Interesting though, the person that's probably praising these more than anything else is Urban Meyer, because he's got the heat taken off, or at least the eye of the media taken off of him, very much so. So I want to kind of ask you this question, and we don't have to get in the nitty gritty details or anything like that. I don't think anybody wants to talk about that.
No.
But so Gruden is out after 10 years, after 10-year-old emails. So they're 10 years old, and he was working for ESPN at the time. He wasn't working for the Raiders, wasn't working for another NFL organization. Those emails come out, and they're misogynistic, and they have some slurs in them and everything like that.
For sure, no
so
doubt.
he's out
Right.
after that. What does this do for Urban Meyer, and how has he benefited from it? And is it fair that Gruden, after these 10-year-old emails, is out kind of almost immediately, and then Urban keeps his job and is in after that?
I see where you're going with that question. My problem is the issues are just not comparable.
Yeah.
Now I will say the look is not great on either side. I wouldn't want my head coach, if I'm a GM, if I'm an owner, I wouldn't want my head coach to have either look.
Right.
But making those comments versus just being caught at a bar doing what Urban Meyer did, you don't like either happening.
So this was my point.
But it's just not equal.
This was my point to Tyler is that now it's a terrible look for Urban Meyer.
It is.
You don't want that ever in a coach, right? But there's no evidence of him like physically committing an affair or anything like that. He's in a bad situation. He shouldn't have been in that situation. He should have just gone home with the team. Even if you're visiting grandchildren, you could do that on a different weekend, on a bye week, whatever else. You need to go back with the team. You don't need to go to a bar. You don't need to be seen with a woman who's not your wife. All bad things. Nothing was like, you can't, there's not a morality clause that covers what happened with that, right?
No.
So
there's not.
I don't think, again, I agree with you. It's just two very different situations. Now, I think Urban benefits from this, that I talked about it. He's not.
One's a bad look, not a fireable offense. The other one's a bad look and a fireable offense.
Fireable offense.
That's the difference.
Correct. You just can't keep him after those come out. And then we also have news. I think it was yesterday, I believe, of Adam Schefter supposedly sending an email as well to Bruce Allen, which is how these emails came about. Is Bruce Allen, the former president of the Washington football team? His emails got released. Schefter apparently caught up in this now, in that he sent in an email containing an article that was not published yet, asking if Bruce Allen wanted to change anything. I think that emails are just going to keep coming out. I bring this up because I think that emails are just going to continue to come out of whatever kind of story the media can spin off of it. I don't think it was like the best look for Schefter, but I don't think it was bad at all. It's obviously nothing compared to John Gruden. It was... I think journalists a lot of times will send at least bits of articles that contain a person or sensitive information and say, hey, should I alter this in any way? I don't want to, destroy our relationship or destroy you. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to tell the story kind of thing. And I think another key point to this as well is that we don't know what article that was, or at least I have not seen anything that tells me what the article was. The article could probably have nothing to do with Bruce Allen, or not contain anything that would be necessary that we're, coming after Adam Schefter, correct? But I think this is going to keep happening.
Well, and this is something I've noticed with a lot of these head coaches that have these big boisterous personalities, and they push the envelope a little bit, not with how they coach, but with how they portray themselves. John Gruden, obviously a big TV personality. He talks a lot. Obviously, he has a lot of cogs and wheels and whatnot. And we've seen with Urban Meyer him kind of have his apologies before with the Ohio State incidents, the Florida incidents, where he just kind of seemingly left overnight. This is what you get when you don't have a coach like Bill Belichick and Nick Saban, I think we would all regard as the two best head coaches in football right now. They're so buttoned up. Nothing gets out. They're not out perusing bars. They're not on social media. They're not tweeting stuff. They're not making these comments. They're buttoned up in the film room. They're at their lake house, taking time off with their wife.
They're fairness,
so locked in on football.
In fairness to other franchises, I mean, those are the GOATs. Like you don't. Those aren't like you don't.
I'm just saying, comparing and contrasting. A very personality based coach like.
Right.
Lane Kiffin, a guy who's very active on social media.
Joey Freshwater.
He's out there. He gets it.
It's so hard in this era, especially with all the media, social media, and everything else like that. It's almost impossible to be clean. Now there's clean, and then there's dirty. So obviously with John Gruden,
Ed Orgeron, that the picture that circulated all over Twitter about him.
We can move on from that. I just wanted to touch on that. Obviously, it's huge
Something
news.
to keep an eye out for.
Huge news in the NFL. We have an interim head coach for the Raiders, and then obviously the Raiders, probably along with the Bears at the end of the season, are in a head coach search.
I think that probably played a lot into why the Raiders played so poorly against the Bears.
Oh, yeah.
That was a distraction, obviously,
it came
for that
out
Raiders
on
team.
Saturday?
Come on.
Friday or Saturday?
There's no way that wasn't a distraction for that locker room.
100%.
So.
It came out the previous, I think, before, like Friday.
I think it was Friday.
Right.
I think it was Friday, and then, obviously they play the game, and then,
Yeah,
we move on. All right, I'm not really going to touch on this because I did it in my whiskey kickers, just missing everything in the NFL. You already talked about the Bengals and the Packers. I think we can move on from that. I don't know what up with the kickers. They all seem to be synced, though, on when they're making stuff and when they're missing stuff. The Bills. We need to talk about the Bills. I'm feeling very confident in my
Your Super Bowl pick is looking really good. Your Rams
confident.
and Bills pick is
feeling good. So I can't win anything else. Maybe I'll win that.
Did you pick the Rams to win or the Bills to win?
I don't remember.
Wow. Such a good pick, and you don't remember who your winner was.
Right now, Bills.
Wow. Right now, you'll say the Bills. Okay.
We go with the better team.
Steven's such like a fair weather guy. He's like, yeah, I'll pick them for now. Yeah.
I'm not a fair weather guy.
Okay.
I'm doing the Cole finger here. I'm not a fair weather guy. I just can't remember, so I'm going with the Bills. I think I did pick the
Are
Rams.
the Chiefs done, Steven?
Chiefs are not done. They just have some problems on defense. They've obviously got some injuries going to right now. I think Chris Jones was out. Frank Clark is just coming back from an injury. So their D-line, they need their D-line to get home for their DBs to be covered up because their
Right.
DBs are not exactly excellent. So obviously they have a lot of defensive problems. I think the main
Turnovers are a big issue for the Chiefs.
So
right
as
now.
I was about to say, I think
2
the
interceptions,
biggest,
2 fumbles. I mean,
think the
that's-
biggest problem right now is that Patrick Mahomes is turning the ball over too much. He's still
Sloppy.
great. He's
Very
still
sloppy.
great, but
Yeah.
it's almost like he's trapped in the I want to make a SportsCenter top 10 play right now when
He
sometimes
tries to make the highlight play every single
as I
down.
say,
and
sometimes you just need to set your feet, throw
Take the check
ball,
down route.
take the easy out route.
Yeah.
You don't have to throw a Hail Mary to Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce every play. Just get the ball moving, get
But
in your
how
offense.
about Josh Allen though?
He has played great. I think the
baller.
first 2
Wow.
weeks he was especially because we're gonna look back at in the season 2. The Bills lost to the Steelers.
They played their worst game of the year though.
They
against
by
them. So,
far,
I mean,
but I'm
by
just
far their
saying,
worst
like,
game.
so the first 2 weeks, Josh Allen almost looked like he was reverting back to old ways of Josh Allen, and then ever since then he has been lights out.
This has been a very dynamic and and another thing about the Bills. The thing that's scary about them is this is without Stephon Diggs really playing well.
Well,
we have not seen him.
Well, instead of Stephon Diggs, they've picked up Emmanuel Sanders, who has been going
and he's
off
been-
for them,
he's been
and then
playing
they're
great.
actually using Knox, their tight end. I mean, they're using more weapons, so it's almost they're getting scarier.
But what I'm
and then
saying
Zach
is-
Moss has been a revolution in their
Right.
backfield. They're
Right.
actually able to run the ball, and they're using him in all those passing down
It's
situations.
just scary
as
to
well.
think that when they get to their potential where Stephon Diggs actually getting his touches, how much more dangerous
defense.
this build. Oh yeah, no, the defense has played great.
Their defense is insane.
The
I'm
Bi- the
feeling
Bills
good.
might be
Let me
one of
ask
the
you
best
this though,
rosters in the
because
league, for sure.
we'll talk about this too. What do we think about the Chargers or the Bills? Or who is the better team in the AFC right now? The Chargers.
I still think the Bills are the best team
I think
in the AFC.
I would take the Bills, but it is close.
The
'cause
Chargers are getting there, but I think the Bills are still.
We touched on it with your Justin
as a
Herbert.
complete roster. I think they're
Sorry, you're right there. We
Best
talked
one.
on it with your Justin Herbert.
Yeah, no, I honestly I think the Chargers have more talent than the Bills. I think the Bills are just built well and they do what they do and they have a great team.
They've been there also.
Exactly.
They've been there for a few years now, and this is a very experienced roster. And I gotta say, I mean, like you said about your Super Bowl pick, I mean, they really do. They look like the most complete team. And maybe do the Bills and the Chargers play this season? Or can we get that
Why do you
matchup
ask
this
me
season?
questions when I don't know the answer
I
to
just
them?
I just feel like at some point they would have to, right? I mean, they're in the same conference. Maybe they play at some point. No,
they do not.
Wow. So they might not make it to play until the playoffs. So I mean,
it would be
these
the
are
first
two
time it would be
teams
the
that
playoff.
could potentially run the table for their divisions. I mean, the Chargers, we'll see how the Chiefs come along and how the Raiders and I mean, I think the Broncos, and we kind of count them out at this point, right? I think the Broncos, who were undefeated at one point, but kind of an oversight on that.
Steelers.
Oh, stop it! Come on,
Better,
but no.
said
Come
better.
on. Yeah, better. Okay. Well, there's a lot of teams that were better, but they're
love
still
that.
not a legit
I love
team.
that I can just say a team name and give you a certain look, and you're like, you
No,
dummy.
no, you're just trolling me. That's all it is.
So we'll have to wait another week for Jeff's tears and tears. He is sadly busy tonight, so we will get
no.
Jeff's.
Big
Well,
Jeff's-
now I have tears.
Me too.
Because we don't
Me
get to
too.
talk to Jeff tonight. Tears.
so
So-
we will get Jeff's tears and tears update next week. All
How
right,
about we
so
pick
let's
some games, huh?
Let's pick some games. Let's fly through these. Okay, I want to fly. I want to get your pick really quick, and who covers, and like one reason why.
Let's
all right?
go. Let's
Really
go.
quick through all of these.
Let's go.
And because we got to talk playoff baseball really quick too.
Oh, for
we
sure,
have to.
for sure.
It's October. It's Jocktober. We have to.
Jocktober.
All right, so
Jocktober.
Bama at Mississippi State. Alabama's a 17-point favorite. I'll go first. I think Bama wins this. I think they cover. I think it's going to be a rout because, I mean, watching that Will Anderson, if you haven't seen it, go look it up. Will Anderson's press conference, his moment where he's staring down the reporters and everything like that. Whew. I feel bad that Mississippi State has to play Alabama right after a loss. They shouldn't have lost because Alabama looks like they're going to curb stomp everybody. So Alabama and the cover.
Unfortunate for Mississippi State, this happened to them 2 years ago. In 2019, after Alabama lost to LSU, they responded with a win over Mississippi State, 38-7. Might we see something like that similar? I got the Tide winning as well by double digits, obviously, 38-17. So I mean, Mississippi State's going to score. That offense is
cover?
that's pretty good.
Alabama
but I
covers?
think Alabama still covers.
I think they definitely cover. I feel bad for Mississippi State as well. I see like a 45-24 type of game.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think we're all in agreement on that. Can't wait to lose that game. Auburn at Arkansas. Arkansas is a 3.5-point favorite. This is a tough game.
This is a tricky game.
Because this could be one of those
Early
that I was
start.
talking about. This could be one of those that I was
Normally
talking
favors
about.
the home team on the earlier games.
And Arkansas just lost a heartbreaker.
They did, and Auburn just got humiliated.
Curb
So
stomped.
both teams are going to look to try and.
I'm going to go Arkansas. They don't cover. It's a final pick.
You said what? now?
Arkansas, they don't cover.
Arkansas wins but doesn't cover.
Correct.
They're only a 3.5-point favorite, Steven.
It's a close game.
Wow.
They
Field goal
only,
game?
They only lost by 1
Okay.
against
all
Ole
right,
Miss.
Okay. Look,
Cole.
Now, I'll say this. The running game will be huge for whoever's going to win this game.
Correct. I completely agree.
Obviously, whoever wins the rushing battle will win the game.
Now, let me put it. I think Arkansas is a better team. Again, I'm going to keep my sneaky good, tough out is going to be the other one. Sneaky good and tough out. Those are my two things. Tough out, Auburn.
I mean, hey, by
Tough
game
out.
logic, Auburn played Georgia better than Arkansas did. They
That's
scored
true.
a touchdown. So I mean,
Man, they didn't score a touchdown, 2 field goals. It's 24-6.
It was 20. It was 10. It was not 34-10. Was the final
I thought it
score?
was 24-6.
I thought it was 34-10.
I just watched it earlier.
Okay.
Let's see.
Maybe not. Okay.
Could be an idiot. Let's
I'll
see.
say Arkansas is going to win this game. I think they will cover. I just think that Auburn, it's going to be hard to find where that offense is going to come from. I think Arkansas has proven. I mean, obviously in that last week they went into a total shootout against Ole Miss.
It was 34-10.
34-10. I think that, but I still think
Game was
Arkansas
ours.
wins the game, and I think they cover. I think it's somewhere around 34-24. I think Arkansas wins the game in Fayetteville.
They did score a touchdown. You're right. Tank Bigsby.
Imagine that.
I told you I might have been an idiot. I was right.
Tyler?
I like Arkansas in this game, but I think it's close. I think you see a lot.
Like Lee
of-
Corso? Close.
Closer.
Close.
than the
Not
experts
so
say.
fast, my friend.
No, but you'll see a lot of Tank Bigsby and a lot of Hunter in this game.
Auburn fans hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both teams are going to run the ball a lot. Who can do it better? I think it's Arkansas.
So Arkansas, me and you are on the same. Arkansas close.
Yes.
I got them covering.
Close. Kentucky at Georgia. This is the big game. This is actually Georgia's
Big
highest
game.
Well, this is Georgia's highest ranked opponent they have left.
It is.
And Kentucky's undefeated
They're
against your LSU pick last week.
Look. Well, I'll get into that
We'll
here
get
momentarily.
we'll get into that in Cole's doghouse. So Kentucky at Georgia. Georgia's a 23.5-point favorite. I like Georgia obviously to win. I don't. What am I doing? I'm back in the same trap.
You're right back in it. Look,
23.5 is a lot of points for an undefeated Kentucky team. I'm in the same trap, Cole. I can't get out of it.
beware people who are betting for Kentucky to cover, because as soon as Steven says that, Georgia's going to cover. As soon as
I can't quit. I can't quit.
you're going to stay with it. You're going to
Kentucky
stay.
covers.
Kentucky-
Georgia wins. Kentucky covers.
It's
they
just
cover.
not gonna
Maybe
happen
it's a
then.
21-point game. It's 21-point game. So it's not close.
This game just reeks of a Georgia blowout. I don't know why. The fact that
it
everybody
does
is
seem like
hyping
that.
this up as the game that Georgia's going to struggle with. Kentucky. Oh,
Kentucky's
man,
undefeated.
Just beating their chest. Yes, but it's just so predictable, Steven.
Undefeated.
It's right. But they've been fool's gold. I said this last week against LSU, but LSU is a dead team, and I'll talk about that here shortly. But
There's the
Georgia is
finger.
going to win this game. Going to win this game, and they will cover.
Okay.
I
I
have
would bet with
Georgia
Cole.
in an
If I were
absolute
you-
rout.
If I were you, I'd
This
bet with
is
Cole.
not going to be a close game.
You don't think so?
I
What do
don't
you
see it
think,
being
Tyler?
close at all.
Okay.
Do you think cover or no?
Well,
Yeah, obviously you have Georgia.
I love
Or you have Kentucky.
I do. I like Georgia to win this, but I don't know if they cover. But Mark Stoops has done a great job this year. But
He
the
has.
talent
No
gap-
doubt. No discredit
talent
to
gap is-
Kentucky. Georgia's just they're a juggernaut right now.
Yeah, they are.
Kentucky's defense is really good though.
And they've been talking all week about
Yeah,
how this is
but-
going to be their loss. That's been the thing.
We
Who?
talked about how
Who
good
said that?
Arkansas's defense was going into that Georgia and Arkansas game as well. So
Well, people that think that because Kentucky's undefeated and because, they're ranked, that all of a sudden that they have a chance to beat Georgia, even though
No,
they've won,
Kentucky-
13 of the last 14 times they've
Let me
met.
put it this
they've
way:
won.
Kentucky has zero chance, but they might cover. Cover or no?
cover.
Cover. Okay, Georgia covers. Ohio State at what? Oklahoma State. Sorry, Oklahoma State couldn't read my.
I'm about to say, are you creating a new game?
Oklahoma State at Texas. Texas is a 5.5-point favorite. Oklahoma State's actually pretty good defensively. They're like all defense, which
are.
is very weird for Oklahoma State. Like that's like
And
their
they're
offensive team.
undefeated.
And they're undefeated.
Mike Gundy's squad, look at them.
Whew, this is a tough game too.
It's in Austin.
It is in Austin.
Is Texas back? Is Texas back? We don't know.
Give me.
Did you take Texas to cover last week against Oklahoma?
Yes, I said Texas
Okay.
might want to take a money line actually, and I was close.
You were very close. 4 seconds away from being that way. Yeah, very close. Does the Longhorns win this week?
I'll take Texas.
I am on the other side. I'm going to take the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are quietly one of the better teams in the Big 12, and I think when it comes down to it,
Their
Oklahoma
defense is
State,
pretty good.
Bedlam's going to be a good game this year. I got the
think so,
Cowboys
too.
winning in
I
Austin.
think so too. I think it would be a better game if Oklahoma State wins this game, but
I think so, too.
I like Texas.
Texas has to learn to finish, and I think they do in this game. And I like Texas in a close one.
I got Mullet Man, Mike Gundy.
There we go. All
I'm a
right.
man.
Last game we have on our docket anyways, UAB at Southern Miss. UAB is a 16-point favorite, which is like huge
That's
for
unheard
UAB.
of for a UAB football team.
I have UAB but not covering because their offense really isn't that dynamic.
Southern Miss is just so bad.
Southern Miss is very bad.
They're just so bad.
Rivalry.
Oh, but the UAB's owned them the last few seasons.
So I have UAB.
no
I
way.
don't have them covering.
I have them covering. There's no way.
UAB likes to
better
play down.
team. They're
I need
more
to stop.
explosive. Southern Miss, they make no explosive
UAB
plays.
does the thing though. They play down in competition.
I think things they didn't last week against Florida Atlantic. They demolished them,
but
demoralized them
the
with
game
turnovers.
changed though on that 100-yard pick six I already talked about because FAU was in that game.
Maybe they can make a big play against that. I just think they're the better team. 16 points, yeah.
They
take
are
it.
definitely a better team,
UAB's
but-
definitely 16 points better than Southern Miss.
Yeah, UAB's going to win this game. 74% of the public is on this game for
Are they on
UAB to
covering?
cover. Yeah, at 16.
But you go against the public because usually Vegas knows more than the public, right?
Exactly. So I think they win, but I do not think they cover.
There we go, Tyler. I love it. All right, let's move on to NFL picks. We just got 4 games this week. We got Packers at the Bears. The Packers are 4.5-point favorite. We'll start with Tyler since that's his team. What you got, Tyler?
I like the Packers covering this one.
Okay.
And I think they cover by at least 10. So
okay.
So I think you see Justin Fields throw a lot more than he did last week.
Yeah.
He only had 111 yards passing.
It really
last
hurts the
week.
Bears that David Montgomery's out right now.
It does hurt.
Oh,
That hurts
man,
the
that's
running
huge.
game.
Hurts
But,
me. I'm a fantasy owner for David Montgomery.
Same.
So
But
hate
Damian
that.
Williams played pretty good.
Yeah, he played really good.
What was
last
there?
week.
It was what's their other guy? It starts with a K. Is
Khalil Herbert.
Thank you, Khalil Herbert. He played pretty good in the game too. 18. I think he had 18 rushes, 75 yards.
Yeah, so they have a
Fantasy,
good
sorry.
tandem going on right now while
Fantasy
David
expert over
Montgomery's
here.
out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they're going to struggle against the Packers.
Okay,
Yeah, this
Cole, what
is
you
an
got?
easy game. Packers are going to win. 34-17. They'll roll.
I kind of
yeah.
like the Bears.
To cover?
The Bears. I kind of like the Bears money line.
What?
That's a juicy pick. If you win the money line, that's going to be like plus 300, plus
Wow.
350. What do you think, Tyler?
Are you
Gambling
making this
expert?
call right now?
Yeah, it's probably at plus 250. Let me
Write
get back to
this
you.
down.
Well,
Only
probably.
250? I thought it'd be more.
Let me get back to you.
Okay,
on
get
that.
back to me, gambling expert.
Are you
I'll pick
taking the Bears? Make it final right now.
I'll take
right
the
now.
Bears.
Come
I'll
on.
take the Bears. I'll be
Wow,
different.
there we go.
I'll
He's
be
got the
The
Bears.
Packers didn't play good against the Steelers a couple weeks ago.
No,
or last week.
no, they
Was that
didn't. No,
2 weeks ago? Yes,
was-
2 weeks ago
yeah, it was
because
2
they
weeks
played the
ago.
Broncos.
Mhm.
They didn't play good against the Steelers. They waxed one team, and so far they haven't played great. Devontae Adams, though, that's just mean. Well, we don't have to talk about that. Chargers at the Ravens. The Ravens are a 3-point favorite. Now, this is going to be probably the game of the week. This or the next
Absolutely,
game we're going to
for
talk
sure.
about.
Yeah.
Because the Ravens, with all their comebacks, they're sneaky good. And the
I don't think
Chargers,
the Ravens are sneaky good, Steven. I think they're just good.
Chargers.
I don't think you could be sneaky good and have beaten the Chiefs.
and the Chargers are a tough out. So the Chargers we just talked about might be one of the best teams in the AFC.
definitely probably the most explosive offense in the AFC for sure. I don't think there's any doubt
I
about that.
will pick the Chargers.
I'm going to take the Chargers as well. I think the Chargers are on a tear right now, and I think Baltimore has just been starting games badly.
Very badly.
Their first halves, they're not a first half team.
Nope.
They're definitely, and I don't think this is a team in the Chargers that you can play that poorly in the first half.
Baltimore doesn't have really a running back either. They have Lamar
No.
Jackson, but they don't have a run game after
Did
they
y'all
lost
see
all
that
their
person that was like criticizing, saying Marquise Brown is not like a top 15, top 20 receiver? He was like sitting there saying that he's like,
I think everybody
Hollywood
like gave.
Brown, yeah, overrated.
He scored a touchdown.
It was
in-
Bart. It was Bart. What's his name? The ESPN analyst. Bart from the Jets. Bart Scott or something like that.
Yeah, Bart Scott.
Bart Scott.
We got a call coming in. Do you want to take this?
Oh, here we go.
Why
Do we have
not?
time?
Here we go.
Hey, it's
we
our boy
don't,
Logan.
but you know. Hey,
Logan.
Logan, what's
From
going
Odenville.
on, man?
You know, guys, I'm sorry I'm so late. It's just been a wild day.
Logan, we're going to keep a tally of that, man. All right, you're a little late, a little tardy. That's going to go on your tardy list, man.
Don't put it on me. Don't give me a pink slip or nothing.
All right. We'll let you slide this time.
we'll punish you.
We'll let you slide that time.
Well, I just want to ask one question because I think Georgia wins, but does Kentucky cover?
We just talked about this game a second ago. I think Tyler and I, or is it just me? I have Kentucky covering. Because
me and Cole were
you and Cole.
Georgia
See, I'm trapped in this thing, Logan, where I say that points against Georgia are too many points. Like I said, 15.5 for Auburn was too many, 18.5 for Arkansas was too many, and obviously Georgia's covered both of those. But I'm in this trap, 23.5. That's a lot of points, and Kentucky's undefeated. They have a good defense. They can at least run the ball. I think Kentucky covers, but I would not bet with me.
I'm with you, Steven. The game being in Athens to me makes it a little bit 50. I think if it was in the Commonwealth, I think I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with them covering. But I for some reason I do. I think they cover. I think, like you said, I think they try and keep it on the ground, maybe chew up some clock the way Georgia has a little bit less possessions. And I do. I think it's like a 17, 20-point game.
Okay, that's what I think. I think Georgia wins pretty handily, but I think Kentucky covers 23.5.
That'll be a big key to this game is how much can Kentucky's offense contribute against that Georgia defense? Because if they're able to keep the ball away, maybe from Georgia's offense,
Kentucky's
maybe they
offense
can,
is not good, but their defense is really good.
Yeah, but and that's the problem for Kentucky is turnovers, and Georgia's defense obviously forces a lot of them, so that could be trouble for the Wildcats on Saturday. So. Logan, we appreciate the call, man, as always, dude.
Well, hey, my favorite sports show never lets me down. So
hey,
there we go.
We're
love
always
it,
here
Logan.
for you, Logan. Always
we
here
love
for you.
it.
We'll talk to you next week, man.
All right. Bye.
Great call.
Always a great
Glad
call
we
from
took
Logan
it.
from
Great
Odenville.
call. Great call.
Always a great call.
We are on Chargers and Ravens. Tyler, what you got?
83% of the public is on the Chargers, and just because of that, I'm fading the public, and I'm going to roll with the Ravens.
Tyler likes to do
Fading
that.
the public.
Tyler likes to fade the public.
Bookie talk right there.
I think the Ravens do start out good in this game, and I think
so they turn it around. They turn it around. Okay, awesome. They finish good.
Yeah.
That's what she said. Cardinals at Browns. Cleveland is a 2.5-point favorite. It's at the Browns. So I think I'm going to take the Browns.
After the way they performed the last few weeks, you're taking the Browns?
They played really good offensively against the Chargers defense. Chargers defense is good.
Yeah, but Steven, they're
lost,
very inconsistent.
So they have 2 losses.
They're just a very
their 2 losses.
Team.
I mean, they're 3-2, and their 2 losses are against the Chiefs, who they could have beat, should have beat, were winning the whole game, and then lost. And the Chargers, who they could have beat, should have beat,
right? But
and then they lost at the end.
There's some games they've won where they've looked really.
The
pathetic.
Vikings game was the one where they looked really bad. I will
look,
say
they
that.
didn't look very impressive against the Bears either. I mean, let's call it like it is. If the Bears had any kind of competence as far as offense goes,
they played the Bears. Yeah, I forget that game.
100%.
I must have forgot
that was
game.
That was the game where Justin Fields. Everybody's like, "How can you play him like that?
Oh,
How can you play the offense style?"
That
was the game.
Yeah.
And the Browns even didn't look that impressive on offense. No, look, Kyler Murray's the better quarterback.
He's
I'm
the
all
better
over Arizona. They're going to win.
Okay, I like the Browns. I like the Browns. I don't like Cleveland's 2.5-point favorite. I like them to cover.
Yeah.
Browns cover. If Browns win, they cover.
I kind of like the Browns as well.
Hey.
Just because the Cardinals' defense has not been tested.
And the Cardinals,
with a running game like
the
this.
Jags were up on the Cardinals. The Cardinals have not looked.
You guys are sitting
insane.
here hammering the Cardinals. They just went and beat your Super Bowl pick a couple of weeks ago.
I know.
But their defense hasn't been tested.
Hasn't been tested. They played the Rams.
They did play the
Rams. But how many times do the Rams pass the ball?
The Rams do pass the ball more, but Derek Anderson's not bad.
Versus a Browns team that's going to control the clock. They're going to control time
hunt
possession.
And
it's going to be a one-two
They're going to
punch
hunt
with
and chub you to death.
Chub
That was you say, Steve. They're going to hunt and chub you to death.
They're going to chub hunt you to death. Okay, so we got the Cardinals and
Last
Browns
game's
pick.
Bills at Titans. Is that the Monday Night Football game?
Yes, it is.
I think it's
Monday Night
Football.
So the Titans, obviously, they just won, right?
Yeah,
Who they play?
won.
Yeah.
Who they play?
Yeah.
I'm forgetting everything right now.
I can't
the
remember
Jaguars.
who. The Jaguars.
Yes,
That's it.
but they won. They won. So the Bills at the Titans. Buffalo is a 5.5-point favorite.
Is AJ Brown and Julio back? That's the question.
I don't know.
If they're
AJ
playing,
Brown is back.
There we go.
Julio's going to be questionable for this.
Okay, that at least helps Ryan Tannehill in that offense. So yes, if AJ Brown plays and if Julio plays, that's a huge get for them. But I mean, this Bills is still the best roster in the NFC.
Bills cover.
Bills cover for sure.
I like the Bills as well.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. All right, so let's move into some playoff baseball really quick. Obviously, so the Astros move on to the ALDS, and they will play the Red Sox. CS. I wrote that down wrong. The ALCS, and they'll play the Red Sox. Going off of that, are the Red Sox team of destiny? They beat the Yankees to get into the playoffs, and then they beat a very good, over 100-win Rays team. So are the Red Sox, with their bats and their clutch hitting, are they a team of destiny?
I mean, look, I picked the Rays. I thought the Rays would win the World Series this year, and the Red Sox beat them. But I don't know how the Red Sox will fare against the Astros. The Astros are owning that villain mindset, that us against the world mindset.
Their Astros are really good. I think we talked about this last week when we went on the show, and shout out Matt Landrum. But they're like, you want to hate them, but man, they're good. They're bats.
I just really don't know. I hate this for a lot of baseball fans out there, but the Astros probably the better team in this series. And even though the Red Sox did get a big win, they finally got that. They beat the Yankees obviously, and then they beat the
Rays.
The Rays. I forget the Astros beat the White Sox. So, but yeah, the Astros just like the better team.
I think the Astros are a better team, but that's why my question was, are the Red Sox team of destiny? Because their bats have been clutch.
They've been clutch, but they're going to
destiny vibes.
They're going to face an absolute juggernaut of a team in Houston. So
you know what? I'll be opposite with you, and I'll just say the Red Sox shocked the world.
I think the Astros are going to win.
I think the Astros.
For sure.
Well, I'll just say the Red Sox shocked the world. I think that's probably wrong because the Astros, like I just went through how good they are, but why not?
No, I got the
Tyler,
Astros with the Red Sox.
I think both teams are coming in hot. They're hitting great. The Red Sox pitching is on point right now. We'll see if that
lasts
holds.
for the bats of the Astros.
We'll see. I like the Astros, but watch out for the Red Sox in this series.
And then
they might keep it close.
Last thing we can touch on, the Dodgers and the Giants are actually playing right now, so that will determine who the Braves go to face in the NLCS. The Braves obviously win
over the Brewers.
3 games to 1. Yeah, 3 games to 1.
Yep.
Freddie Freeman walk off in the not walk off, a game winning home run in the bottom of the 8th 2 days ago. So how are we feeling about the Braves? I know we all Braves fans in here. How are we feeling? Do we feel confident? What do we feel?
I think we're feeling a little bit better because you not only won the series, but you won it ahead of the Giants and Dodgers. You get a few days rest.
Yeah, I think the rest helps a lot too because the Braves really only have 3 starting pitchers you can really rely on.
I think that's huge.
It's big.
But what's so impressive for the Braves is they're doing this without Soroka and without Acuna.
Soler supposed to be back though.
Soler's supposed to be back, so that'll be huge for the Braves. But yeah, I mean, I think you're a little more optimistic. But at the end of the day, you still look over and you see those talented teams in California with the Giants and Dodgers. Yeah, whoever wins that game,
as
tonight,
I say, it's going to be
still
a
look
tough,
across there and say that's going to be so tough.
Very, very
tough. You have to steal in those
Braves,
first 2 games.
I don't know if y'all watched that game 4 for the Braves Brewers.
I think, yeah.
But the Braves, I mean, their batting came in clutch. I mean, every time the Brewers went up, the Braves came right back in the bottom or top of the next inning. So
you will have to steal one of the first 2 games in California to win that
I
series.
agree. I agree. But we talked about the Red Sox and Astros being hot. The Braves might be one of the hottest teams right now in all of baseball because they win 12 of 14 going into the playoffs. And then obviously they win 3 of 4 versus the Brewers.
Most teams coming in the playoffs are hot though, Steven. Let's go ahead and put that out there.
Red Sox not really.
No, you're right.
And the Red Sox just beat the Yankees and the Rays. The Dodgers weren't necessarily really hot too because they had a chance to overtake the Giants and they didn't. The Braves are 12 of 14. That's pretty good for baseball.
Okay, so
last thing I'll say on the Braves here is that Freddie Freeman is home run I just talked about. That's the first player in franchise history with a
stat of the day.
No. With a go-ahead a home run in the 8th inning or later in a series clinching win.
Okay, gotcha.
That was
awesome. Well, hey,
there's the playoff baseball. We just talked it.
Do we have Braves in the World Series now? Or are we changing our picks now?
Are you still sticking with Giants, Dodgers? I'm gonna go. I can't not pick the Braves. I got to go Braves just to make my heart happy and root for them. So I'll go Braves Red Sox for a World Series nobody expected.
Well, unfortunately for a lot of baseball fans, I think it's probably going to be Astros and Dodgers probably again.
Yeah,
Astros, Dodgers,
if the Dodgers win the night.
So yeah, I was say, do y'all both have Dodgers over the Giants? Well, this is going to be so wrong.
Winning the World Series?
By the time we put this podcast out, for those not listening live, this is going to be...
Yeah.
I look up the scores.
I think, unfortunately, for a lot of baseball fans, the Astros are probably going to win the World Series. I don't know why I have that feeling.
Oh, no, it's not on yet.
But I have a terrible feeling.
Yep.
Terrible feeling that's what's going to happen.
I do too, Cole. Yeah. I have that same terrible feeling, even though I just picked the Braves and the Red Sox. All right, so moving on from baseball, we will go into Cole's doghouse. How did we do last week, Cole?
Not good. Not good at all. LSU is an absolute dead football team, and it cost the doghouse big against Kentucky. They just dominate Coach O and the Tigers, and I feel like Coach Orgeron is at this point a dead man walking. I feel at this point anything he adds to his obituary is pretty much what's going to happen at the end of the season, because LSU looks like they're going to be a team that's going to probably part ways with him at some point. I'm going to try and take somebody a little different here. Try and get on the right track, because we've kind of had a couple of weeks where we've kind of missed on the doghouse. We're going to go with Utah, and the Utah Utes in our doghouse. Not really a team that's going to be on a upset, because it's Arizona State. They're the 18th ranked team in the country, and there's no line for this. This is a pick'em game, so it's really just considered an upset because it's a ranked team versus a non-ranked team. Utah is 3 wins when they have over 100 yards rushing, under 100 yards rushing allowed, versus their 2 losses. They've given up 200 yards rushing. So obviously, you see where the proof of the pudding is on how they can win the football game. So I think that Kyle Whittingham and the Utes get a dub in the Pac-12 After Dark game on Saturday.
There you go. It's a great game to get your money back in betting. When you lose all your games, you have the Pac-12 After Dark.
I'm telling you, I think the Utes are the dog this week.
Well, last week, Cole, I faded you on Tyler's
and
bets,
boy,
and
the doghouse get faded.
And yeah. So been fading you over the past couple of weeks.
Are you gonna fade this one too and take the Sun Devils?
No, I
didn't think so.
I kind of like Utah on this one.
I'm kind of getting into the I like picking dogs now, because you lose, it's like whatever, but if you win,
There's
it's like
value
big plus bets,
Exactly.
So we'll move on. We'll go to I got a few stats for you, and then I'm gonna ask y'all a couple questions like I did last week.
Quiz.
That's why
I love the trivia.
Because Cole likes to cheat over here. So one of the stats that I have that's not trivia, or two stats that I have that are not trivia, there has been 4,017 individual games of 40-plus pass attempts in NFL history. Lamar Jackson now has the highest completion percentage in any of those games from Monday night. 86% he completed from Monday night.
That's
pretty crazy. So 4,000 games that have 40-plus attempts, Lamar Jackson. Who would have thought? That's a trivia question you can ask or answer later down in the years of
20 years from now.
Yeah, 20 years from now.
Ask you that. We're like, Lamar
it's a very
Jackson.
specific one, but so the other one I talked about kickers and everything like that. So entering Sunday Night Football, there have been 12 missed field goals and 12 missed extra points in Week 5 since the extra. So this was obviously Sunday night or Sunday's stat. Since the extra point was moved back in 2015, Week 5 of this season is the first week in that span to have double-digit missed field goals and double-digit missed extra points.
Points are coming off the board.
So a lot of bad kicking. I think we can all agree on that. So let's go into my questions for you guys. So after Sunday, after this past week, Derrick Henry has 4,792 rushing yards and 47 rushing touchdowns through his last 40 games. So that's really, really good, obviously. That is the most rush yards in a 40-game span in NFL history, surpassing who?
Would it be Eric Dickerson?
Nope.
Wow.
Adrian Peterson.
Nope.
Ooh.
What era? Can you give us
It's an older era.
Okay. Jim Brown.
There you go.
Oh,
ding, ding, ding,
Brown.
ding, ding. 1963 to 1965.
I was going to say Barry Sanders if Jim Brown wasn't right.
Okay, and my next question, trivia. Trayvon Diggs is 1 game shy of tying the longest season opening interception streak in NFL history, which is 6 games, obviously. Who are the other 3 that have
Deion
this?
Sanders has to be 1, right?
He is not.
What?
There's
Really?
one person from the 2000s. The 50s one, the
Darrell
name.
Revis has to be one of them, right?
He is not. There's
What?
a 50s one, a 2000s one, and an 80s one. Do we have any guesses?
Darrell Revis is on that
the
list?
all-time interception leader is Paul Krause.
But he is not. He does not own this season opening interception streak.
That's interesting.
Wow.
That kind of blows my mind.
Steven, I think I'm stumped at this point, man.
I know the only name. I only know one of these names on this list, and it's the 1950s one.
Night Train Lane?
No, Tom Landry. It's 1951.
Tom Landry. Wow.
It's a throwback name there for you. And then the 80s one was Barry Wilburn. Never heard of him.
Well, let me get the 2001.
This is 2003 is the year that this record was.
I was going to guess Peanut Tillman, but
no, good guess, but no.
him.
No, I have no idea.
Charles Woodson?
No.
Who is
I'm
it?
stumped.
Brian Russell, 2003.
Wow.
There you go.
What is that?
A lot of names that I have just no clue about who they played for. So that was good. Hey, Ricky might know.
That's
Ricky
true.
Dixon probably would
Ricky
know that
knows
stat, but,
every NFL
he knows everything.
name
so
ever.
Shout out to Ricky Dixon.
Shout out Ricky Dixon. Shout out Ricky Dixon. All right, well, let's wrap up the show with Tyler's picks. Tyler, how did we do last
Win
week?
us some
Cole
money,
didn't
Tyler.
do good. Obviously,
No.
you at least did good on one pick.
Yeah, you
you
obviously
faded
did
Cole.
good because you faded
So
the
how did we
so.
do on our picks on the show, though?
We went 3-1 last
Hey,
week,
hey!
guys.
Oh, man.
Let's go 4-0 this week. What you got?
So, well, I got 2 games for you, and we're sticking to college.
Okay, so let's go 2-0.
And we're sticking in the same conference, in the SEC conference. This week, Ole Miss plays Tennessee in Neyland Stadium. 3-point favorites is Ole Miss.
Sneaky good game.
It is a sneaky good game. I like Ole Miss.
Tennessee's
to
tough
cover.
out.
They are. Tennessee's been playing some good football lately.
You said Ole Miss to cover? Sorry.
I like Ole Miss to cover in this game. Tennessee's defense isn't. Their offense is playing great. Don't get me wrong. But
Especially after switching quarterbacks to the Virginia Tech transfer, Hakeem Hooker, right?
yeah, exactly. He's been playing really good. But I just like Ole Miss in this game. Ole Miss is going to score a lot of points. Tennessee will too, because we know that Ole Miss defense is suspect. Another thing to look out for: look at the over in this game. Watch the over. But I like Ole Miss to cover. I'm probably thinking like 45-38 in this game. So
the over's definitely a play too. Then
it is.
What is the over under
it's
set at?
80.5.
Ooh.
That's a lot of points, but Ole Miss and Tennessee have both scored a lot of points this season,
and they can't stop anybody.
And they can't.
Ole Miss can't.
Yeah,
either.
they're very susceptible.
Keep in mind, this Tennessee defense gave up 41 to Pittsburgh earlier.
Well, they gave up
this
like
season.
20. What did they give up? 21 to Missouri. Missouri's not good.
Yeah, exactly.
So
they also scored 60-something points on.
I thought they had 4. I thought it was 42 to 21. Am I
No,
wrong?
it was like 62 to 21.
Oh, okay, maybe they scored. Oh, I think it was halftime. It was like 42 to 21.
No, they scored like 62 points.
But and then the other game I'm rolling into is Texas A&M 9-point favorites against Missouri this weekend. I like Texas A&M to cover.
Missouri's not good.
Yeah, and Missouri is not a good team. I think you'll see a lot of Isaiah Spiller in this game. The opponents are averaging an absurd 288 rushing yards against Missouri this season.
Sheesh.
And we know how good that Texas A&M backfield is. So you'll see a lot of 1-2. But I think they cover this weekend. I definitely like Texas A&M.
Wow.
So.
Well, hey,
I like it, Tyler.
Picks.
I like it. I like picking against Missouri. You don't lose many games that way.
Exactly.
So
good show, guys.
That was a great show. I think we had a really good review of last weekend. Tune in next week for a review of this upcoming weekend. Obviously, it was a huge week for college football. Who knows, though? We might get some more. We didn't expect it to be such a big week until the week happened. So who knows? We might get some more upsets this coming week. That will wrap us up. I think we need to, everybody tune into our Instagram, our Facebook, our Twitter. Please follow us. Follow us live. Most of the time Wednesday nights, sometimes Thursday nights, obviously. And then please subscribe to our podcast. And then if you would, rate us 5 stars because we pop up more on Apple if you rate us 5 stars.
Hey, we appreciate you guys joining and listening. This has been your official home for all things football. This has been Under Review. We'll see you next week.
God bless America.